1, go.
Welcome to the Technocrat Live, Ariella Lester.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on. So I just want to, we were talking about a bunch of stuff before the show, so I just want to warn you. And get the warning before the show. If I bring something back up and I ask you a question about something we were talking about, it's like just I'm trying to bring the people out there into whatever we're talking about. So
let's include them. Let's not keep them in the dark.
How you doing? How was your trip?
Doing awesome.
Well, how's the commute? Was it okay?
Oh my God, love Long Island traffic.
Yeah, the Long Island Expressway was a disaster today. So, at one point I had to mount the curb to avoid slamming into a cop-created traffic jam, so that was fun. I felt like I was in a 70s movie. All right, so okay. I hope you don't mind. I just want to do a couple of news items.
Sure.
There's been some stuff that's come out in the news that should be interesting. In case you haven't heard, the CEO of IBM has affirmed that she does not have a death wish.
That's good.
So this came up during the Boston Summit for Red Hat, where she was speaking, and the subject was, is she going to start changing the personnel and the methodology of Red Hat and how they write Linux?
Okay.
Because a lot of the core Linux developers are working for Red Hat, so yeah, apparently she does not have a death wish, so that means she's not going to change anything.
We'll see.
Do you think that's true?
No.
Okay, I think so. We'll see. Yeah, I don't really trust it either, but maybe we'll be surprised. I can be optimistic and pessimistic at the same time.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, I do that. I can't even stop myself. So one of the things that's in the news, and this is kind of interesting, is a double news piece. So the price of Bitcoin is currently at 6,200.
Roughly, yeah.
Yep. So one of the reasons that this is odd, there's a couple of reasons this is odd. First of all, there was a few things in the news today.
Didn't they buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin?
That might be the case. You know, I try to stay away from volume spikes.
Okay.
Because you know what, it's too easy since it's such a shallow market, it's too easy for someone to manipulate mindsets, and I don't want to understand right? Like good, yeah, do that, yeah. And I got to sell right now, yeah, good job. But you know, it's not good for me and understanding what's going on. So the first thing that's interesting about that is that some politician, a couple of politicians in Congress came out and said maybe we should be making cryptocurrencies illegal. And of course, all the astute people on the internet went, whoa, wait a minute. We finally gotten to the phase where the dollar is threatened?
I think the dollar will be replaced eventually. It will not be the world currency.
Will it be Bitcoin or be another cryptocurrency or something else?
It'll be either Bitcoin or some version of cryptocurrency.
I think it's going to be Bitcoin. I really think it's going to be Bitcoin. But you never know, right? The developers could mess up tomorrow, and it could be Litecoin because the Bitcoin developers went in a cocaine-addled spree or something.
No, I hope it's Bitcoin. I'll just, maybe then I could buy my Gulfstream.
Yeah. You want a Gulfstream?
Yeah.
Really?
I want a G4 or G5. No, I want a G5.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I want a G5.
Awesome. Good taste. Yes, we only talk about the finest things on the Technocrat Live. So, yeah, I just thought that was, so there's actually another piece to this. So someone had predicted in a private forum, like an age ago, and they did, I just it's just a prediction. I'm not quoting it, so it's not like I'm violating their trust or something. But when we were at the bottom, they said we're at the bottom of a cup and handle. I said that is way too premature.
Oh my God.
But you know what? Actually, it's looking correct. So right now, if we just eke up just a little more, and then have a fall down to like the mid 5,000s, and then go back up to about 6,300 or so. That's a cup and handle pattern, and we know what happened last time that happened. So if we had the same kind of rise, it would be astronomical. So I'm not pumping Bitcoin, but I just it's kind of weird the timing of a couple of serious politicians coming out and saying Bitcoin is evil, and the fact that we could be on the cusp of a major move up.
I don't see it going past. I don't see maybe going past 6,500, but I do see going down.
Well, it's definitely not going to go past 6,500 right now. I think that it's going to top out there and then come back down and then come back up to 6,500 again.
But I think if it goes around 5,000, I know I'll be buying.
Right. Yeah. So I had taxes, so I had to dump a bunch of the near the bottom, so it was disappointing. But I still have a bunch, so.
God bless
And
you.
I believe in it. That's all that
right.
really matters. I don't even care about the money, you know. Also, just kind of an aside, because there was some speculation with the Java license change and stuff, but apparently it's, I have yet to find any effect, so that may have been hyperbole on my part, you know. And of course, there's always Open JDK, which does work
Right.
with Minecraft, but there's a new Minecraft release out, and there's a lot of major changes. So if you're into gaming, go check it out. I think 3 days ago it came out, so.
Don't know anything about. I never played Minecraft, so I don't know.
Right. So yeah, one of the things we mentioned on a previous show is that Minecraft is at least it was at one point Turing complete with Redstone.
Okay.
So you can literally build whole computers. The circuitry is consistent enough you can build entire functioning computers inside of
I think
Minecraft.
you did a presentation about that.
Yes, that was one of my bullet points in my presentation. Mostly I talked about my kids
Yes.
destroying things on our server with all the mods. But yes, that was one of the points. And honestly, I mean, I couldn't. I have a lot of things on my comp sci bucket list, but designing a computer from the ground up isn't one of them.
No, it's too. No.
It's just too like I feel like it would be great because it would make me wiser as to the ways the computer worked, but I feel like it wouldn't be a good use of my time.
No, I'd rather do more important things.
I'd be specializing in something where I wouldn't ever be good enough to be useful professionally, but you know I would learn only marginal things about my other trades. But kudos to the guys who do it, you know.
God bless them.
So let's start with something like kind of traditional.
Sure.
How did you get into computing? What was your first computer?
First computer was TI 994A.
Yeah.
Because it was the true 16-bit processor at that time.
Okay.
And yeah, TI, the 4A.
4A, okay.
Yeah, and
So what got you interested in that? Just pick it up in the store, or was it?
No, my
a
friend.
neighbor got one, or a friend, or
Well,
parent, your mom?
my neighbor had one. We were best friends at that time. But then a lot of my also friends had the Apple IIe.
Oh, okay.
And but everyone was saying get the TI because it's a 16-bit, and Apple IIe was like what, an 8-bit.
Yeah.
And so basically, I was and they had the TRS-80 Model 1s and TRS-80 Model 3s.
Okay.
So we go back to.
What did you use it for? Was it like gaming, or was it desktop publishing?
No, for the TSR, I actually. This guy from Yeshiva would teach us computer classes.
Right.
Just how to write basic computer programs and stuff.
Okay,
like that.
great. So you can program a little.
Yeah, I was doing. That's how I
Right.
And then the games were on Apple IIe and stuff like that, and the little programming, basic, was just basic.
Right.
So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's always like a really interesting question because I get to find out what kind of what people use computers for. You know?
And what actually then it was. So that came out in the 80s. And that was like when Ronald Reagan was president.
Right.
And
Ronnie Reagan.
Yeah, and got me into computers was the whole thing. It was the Cold War.
Right.
And
was BBS out then yet, or not yet?
I don't know.
I mean, I know it was there, but I mean, were you on it, or were you connecting to message boards and stuff?
That was later on. Yeah, that was with the Commodore 64.
Most people I know started in the early 90s.
Right.
I know one guy that actually was running BBS servers that other people were logging into in the mid 90s, so he must have been doing it sooner.
Right.
Most people I know.
No, I got
early 90s.
So I used my TI 994A. I saw a movie called War Games.
Right.
And
War Games is awesome.
That got me into it.
My kids have seen it.
And
mandatory.
It is, and that's got me into computers, you know, and...
If you're trying to do pop culture in computers, war games, sneakers, watch those two.
So I wrote a whole entire program in BASIC. I tried to I wrote the whole, the whole game, like the movie game, like the America of nuclear war going on and missile attacks, and...
Right.
So I wrote all that shit.
Yeah, cool.
Which...
Yeah, so there's a ton of trivia about that, but I'm not gonna get into it.
The Whopper.
The Whopper, about the Whopper and the characters and the I think they got the DEF CON system backwards. Like they went to.
No, they actually had it right. DEFCON 1 is when shit really hits the fan.
Oh, okay.
DEFCON 5 is. What was
Right.
it? I can't remember now. It's been so long.
I think they got it backwards in the movie. Like they had everything else right, but that for some reason they got that backwards. But things were much more secretive back then, right?
Oh, definitely, big
DEFCON
time.
5 is Lisa there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if
it's
one's
right.
the one.
Once when shit hits the fan.
So your brain is right. Maybe
Yeah.
the movie was wrong, but
So.
okay. Yeah, I think DEFCON. I think we're going to DEFCON 5 in the movie, and that was of course like yay, anticlimactic. A handful of mill techs, mill geeks were going. Ugh. Okay, so what operating system? So I know you were running on TI.
I don't know. This is the Texas Instruments operating system.
Right. Yeah. So when was the first time you actually got to make a choice about operating systems? Was it Linux?
It was. I think my first intro to Linux was I remember using DOS, MS like 5.1 or something like that, and which seemed interesting, like Windows, and Windows seemed. And then someone said something about Unix, like one of my uncles.
Right.
And it was like Unix. It's like. And
You're like in medieval times?
what is Unix? And then it's like then I got a Caldora. Remember Caldora?
Yes. Yes.
So.
Caldora was interesting.
That was my first. It's like, ooh, this is amazing. And
Wow! If you thought that was amazing, I bet it was really a knockout when you got your hands on Red Hat or.
right. So then when I got into Red Hat, I went to North Carolina State, and Red Hat was down there, and we used 4.2. Red Hat 4.2.
Nice. That's when I got started.
That's where I got started too. So
Okay, great.
4.2.
I saw Star Office running on 4.2, and I was just like, "This is going to destroy Microsoft.
Oh
it
my
just
God.
needs time."
It was just amazing. And,
Yeah.
And
Because people what people don't understand is that Microsoft was using. You may not understand if you've been in the business a while. You understand, but Microsoft was using the file formats to trap people on their platform, and you literally couldn't open a Word document in anything but Word, and everybody used it. So even if you're on Apple,
Right.
you're like, I can't open this. You had to whole companies couldn't interface. The company could talk internally because they all standardized on one platform, but.
And used Accelerated X, which was. Do you remember Accelerated
I
X?
do. Yes.
Yes, I had fully licensed copies of Accelerated X and Common Desktop Environment, CDE. I loved CDE.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Solaris.
Oh, there's so many good workalikes now.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I remember Silicon Graphics, SGI. I still want to get an Octane machine or a Fire machine,
There were.
but they're still so expensive.
I've worked at 3 labs. There were. All 3 labs had SGIs in production. My last job I left 3 years ago.
And
or 2 years ago.
They
So,
have
there's
they
still
have
SGIs
it
in production.
And the stupid Fire machine or an Octane machine is still crazy money for these things.
Right.
And I was like, damn.
Yeah. I think they
It was the backplane that made
it was just worth, I think people felt like it was worth investing in. The backplane was
It was the
super
backplane.
fast.
It was super crazy backplane. It was
Right.
decades more advanced.
I never became the SGI guy because there was always somebody who was kind of grandfathered in who had been around a while, and I was the Linux guy. They needed more help on the Linux side, but I still was amazed.
Right.
Yeah, IRIX. Do you have a favorite computer story, or was there a computer that really touched your heart?
Touched my heart.
Yeah. Touched your hard drive.
We could get kinky.
Yeah. All right.
Favorite computer.
Yeah. Okay.
I still I like the Octane. It was one of my favorite. It brings
Right.
back memories. If I saw it today.
Well, I think actually I wasn't on here, but I was just thinking I wonder if she's going to say IRIX or the Octane.
And
How about favorite gadgets? Do you have a favorite gadget, or is there something like?
I like my iPhone. My iPhone's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's all the gadgets are in one gadget now, right?
Right.
I mean, I love smartwatches. I'm totally into. I'm actually just mucking around with security cameras at home.
I'm thinking about talking about security. Thinking about getting the new BlackBerry too. I'm really starting to think about moving.
Yeah, they look pretty good. I'm pretty psyched about the BlackBerries. They look.
And it's very secure. And
Right.
I'm thinking about dumping my iPhone
Right.
for BlackBerry.
Cool.
So.
All right. So you want to get serious or you want to talk computers?
We could do both. Do mixture, go back and forth.
Okay, let's go back and forth. So you were on our panel. Thank
Right.
you so much for coming in
No,
on short notice, very short notice.
I had no idea I was going to be on, but I mean,
That's how we do things around here.
I know. You just like,
You're like, welcome to the show. I'm on the show. You know, just you walk in a dark room, the lights come on, and then you're talking.
it's like, oh my God, what's going on here?
It's like some kind of dream or nightmare, right? So thanks so much for doing that.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
And your discussion was really interesting. I think Arnie was happy they could talk about women in tech with a woman in the room.
Right.
So you know, so I have some questions about this, and you know,
Sure,
I'm willing to, you know, stop me if I go too far. So
Let's go.
So one of the things that came up with that is harassment. So, you know, on the one hand, I want people to be safe. I don't want women to be harassed or men to be harassed.
No, I don't think any sex should be, or gender.
Right, or race, or religion, or
it should be a safe environment. You come.
All right, you know, I gotta say, smelly people, that's pushing it. I just don't want to deal with smelly people. But other than that, no one should be harassed.
No.
You know, maybe smelly people. You know, all right. You know, there's a gym. Go use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I know your house is being worked on.
Yes.
So the problem is protection versus environment. That's the trade-off, right? You know, you want every person to feel safe, but at the same time, you don't ever want to be walking on eggshells when they're talking to each other.
No,
and that's one of the reasons I'm glad you're on the show, because we know each other and we've been talking for years and years.
So yeah.
You know, like I don't feel like we have to be on eggshells talking about a tough topic like this.
No, so it's funny. Talk about a story. A while ago,
Yeah.
a long time ago. So I was harassed at work,
Yeah.
and I brought it to senior management. This was ways ago,
Right.
and you know, I was told, you know, we'll look into it, you know, be taken care of and everything.
So you got harassed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was it? What was it like? What were they doing?
It was some of the employees, very inappropriate.
Were people trying to date you, or were they trying to put you down?
No, not.
Or you couldn't tell?
No, they weren't. No, it was more about really inappropriate verbiage.
Right.
And it was a lot of some of the kids, and I kept saying, you know, cut it out, and.
Just the record, we played Cards Against Humanity, so I can make a hard disk joke. All right.
So,
if you thought that was inappropriate, you obviously haven't played that game before. So get over it.
Stop. No, so you know, management said we'll take care, and they totally like nothing happened. You know, they said, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, that. Totally wiped under the.
Right.
Which is really disappointing.
So you went to them, and
they said,
you said, I have a problem.
Right.
People are insulting me, they're bullying me, and then they didn't take any action. They promised to take action, but then they didn't.
There was no follow-up, no nothing.
You know, I found that management just does that with everything.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can write a short script to replace them.
So,
Just
Right.
go to 10.
I let it go, so it's okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why did you let it go? Didn't you want to become?
Some of the people left.
Didn't you want to crucify yourself, or yeah?
And some of the parties involved left. And things had calmed down, and
right.
And things calmed
So
down.
I always wonder when something like that happens, if it was really somebody pressuring someone in the background, like yeah, you're making problems, get out.
Could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know,
that's the hopeful scenario, right? See, I can be cynical and hopeful at the same time. Yeah, hopefully they did their job, and you know, I mean, sometimes there's lots of people retire.
Well, you know, it's like
lots of people retire. You know,
I think you know, they should have said, look, we took care of it. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It's all taken care of. But except just never any feedback or anything like that. I would have been just happy. Look, it's not going to happen again. It's taken care of. And I would have been really, you know, I would have been, instead of, you know, maybe developing some resentments.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So are you still pissed about it, or?
Oh no, this was ancient time.
Right. So okay, well that's good.
No.
So you know what? It's good you didn't let it control you.
No.
Because otherwise, then you're the one who suffers, right? So, yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you were able to go to them behind closed doors, so that they didn't really affect the environment. But maybe they did something, but maybe they didn't.
I have no idea. There was never any feedback.
Right. Yeah, that was a mistake, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you're always going to feel like slighted.
I do.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
at that time.
Yeah,
But now it was, so long ago, it doesn't even matter.
Right. So I got a question for you. So this is something that I think happens a lot to women, and it's so hard to talk about this because I don't want to. It's the perfect word, so I'm just going to use it. Do you ever have problems sorting yourself out between like bitchy and work mode? Because I know I'm an asshole sometimes when I'm in work mode. I mean, my wife tells me all the time, if I'm on a project and I got to get this done in 5 hours, or it's going to rain on our stuff, or my car is going to break or something, and I'll just march through the house and ignore people because I'm focused on the task.
I could be.
And so I guess that's a male version of bitchy. So I don't know. Like, how do you manage that?
Well, I mean, because I'm a girl.
Right.
They say we're bitches. When we get like really, we could get like, we need to get this done, that done, this done, and they say, oh, she's such a bitch because she's like really like a slave driver or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, he's just being a good manager and good task.
I was careful. I said bitchy, not bitch. Right? Because, but it's true. Anyone can get bitchy.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's true. It's hard for someone to see when they're talking to you that when you're driven and you're like, get out of my way, I have this many tasks and these many other things to do, I don't have time to coddle your feelings right now.
We don't. I don't have time. It's like we have a checklist of stuff. We have a maintenance window. We have so much to get done.
Right.
There's always things that go wrong. Work on the task, follow through, think of it logically.
Right.
And I don't want to hear that. It's like my time of the month.
I mean, like, oh, you've got that, huh?
Oh my God, yeah. So
Yeah.
I heard it muttered under the breath and stuff.
Right. So, I mean, I guess you have to take it in stride a little bit, right? Because if everybody's serious and mean.
Oh no, I just joke about it.
Right.
And stuff.
So when does it go from taking it in stride to a pattern of harassment? What's the line? I mean, I know it's different for everybody, but what's your line?
The tone of voice.
Tone of voice.
Tone of voice.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. That's smart.
In the person, I know if I've known the person a long time, and
right.
and tone of voice and the general how you say it. When you're in that conversation, context, the context.
You're right, the context. Oh yeah, context. So tone of voice. Actually, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
Tone of voice.
And context.
Yeah, tone of voice and context. Wow, we're really diving into it early. Okay. Cool.
Because you know what, I could just say, look, when's the last time you got laid? You need it.
Right.
So, I could just...
Are you worried that, like, if you make a joke like that it'll come around back on you and then you'll be in HR and they'll be talking to you about making a joke? And
it's all context.
It's all context, right?
It's all context.
Smart. Cool. So that kind of actually... I'll come back to this probably should have been the final point anyway. So, I've been thinking about how to deal with bullies. Like, partly based on what you were saying on the panel, which is, again, very smart. So, it seems to me like the way to deal with bullies is humor.
Right, humor. Oh, big time.
You just make a joke and then hopefully it'll go away, right? Hopefully not a terribly inappropriate joke, right? And just like, hey, the laughter's pain,
right.
Comedy's pain, and if you give a little person a little pain, like, just, you're bothering me, and like, but it's funny and we're all friends, right? And then, humiliation. So you're mentioning you can just like, you ever get laid, buddy? Obviously not, just embarrass him into, realizing how inappropriate he's acting.
Right.
And then, and of course, hubris, right, which is just like, get away from me, you're a waste of my time, you're a doofus. You're wasting everybody's time because you're wasting my time, and I need to be doing something the company needs right now. And of course, then you actually hunt them, where you're going to HR, you're going to their boss, you're going up the ladder, you're saying this person is, the 4 H's.
I think that's the last resort.
Right. That was meant to be an order, right?
Yeah.
Is that a good order, or is there something I'm missing in here?
No, that's a good order.
Humor, humiliation, hubris, and hunt.
I think if you just use a little humor and be smart about it, I think it'll do wonders.
Right.
I don't think. When you do the hunt thing.
In fairness, this came from her, so this was actually for you. I mean, like, I've seen women, different women take different approaches, right?
Because I think if you go...
Some women go straight to hunt, and it's like,
That's way overkill.
What's the consequences of that, do you think?
It's just, the consequences is you make a bad name for yourself, you maybe just... bad work environment.
Right.
Everyone's on pins and needles. You know, you spend more time with your work people than you do with your family. Think
Right.
about it.
Right. So if you manage other people's feelings badly, you end up spending even more time managing their feelings. It seems like.
I guess so. I think just.
Why are we bags of meat? Why can't we just be computers? It'd be so much easier. Beep, 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 beep.
No. It's not fun. No.
Yeah, it wouldn't be any fun though,
No,
right?
no fun.
Yeah, no surprises.
No.
Yeah, everything would be. It would be if it was a surprise, you'd crash, and that would be the end of it.
It's like I'm gonna mess up the joke, but like why don't coders go on cruises? Oh, screw it.
No, okay. Because the Internet of Things stuff on the cruise will be hacked.
I don't know. I forgot.
Well, you've done Hope, right? So,
Oh my God, yes, many times, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm a huge Hope fan. I love Hope. In fact,
we had Isaac on here. He was one of the co-founders of Hope. So
Really?
Yep, he was one of our first guests.
So I want to do a whole presentation. I'm looking to do that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm really involved in cybersecurity. I'm going to be at a cybersecurity summit in Newport Cybersecurity Conference in July.
Really?
So I'm going to be on the panel talking about cybersecurity.
Newport,
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Okay.
And so I'll be on the panel talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
So
So that was.
So what do you want to talk about at Hope? How to get no sleep and
Have you done presentations there, or you just
no,
attend?
I just attend, but I want to present next time.
Okay, great.
And,
We'll contact Isaac.
Okay. We'll
So if you need me to help you get in touch, if
Okay.
you have a present, put like a summary or something together, and then I'll send it. I'll connect you guys.
So because I've done presentations elsewhere.
I mean, I don't know if he's directly involved, but he knows
I
people.
know.
He knows what.
No, so I've done presentations about how to keep your anonymity on the internet and how to make Google work for it.
Do you usually shuttle your stuff off before you go to those things? Your cell phone and stuff.
Oh, so I have burner phones.
Nice.
I throw them out. I take my hard drive out of my laptop. I use only a laptop for those type of events.
Yeah, if you ever go to a hacker conference, use burner equipment.
Use burner equipment, and then I take the hard drive out of the laptop and I throw it out. And
The nice advantage of Hope is because it's in New York City, you're taking the subway in, so it's not your problem.
I stay at the Marriott.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, no, I don't-
Only the best here on the
That's
Technocrat.
right,
No.
Oh my God.
Well, because I was really nervous because they had that. Joel Goldberg was part of the hacker conference.
Which one?
I forgot the name of it. How could I forget the name of it? Anyway, so what was it?
B-Sides.
B-Sides. Thank you, Rich. So the B-Sides conference, and I drove my car in. Now I wasn't nervous for me, but I was nervous for everybody else.
Why?
Telematics units, people driving their cars in there, with their RFID tires and their Bluetooth enabled telematics units and stereos, and you guys are gonna get hacked, man.
Oh, so, I'm waiting for the day when you have like 16-year-old kids in front of their laptops turning off all the cars on the Hudson Parkway or the LIE. I could just see.
Right. Well, I think the reason it hasn't happened is because I think it's kind of like that. You have to be a drunken idiot to throw a bowling ball off a footbridge. There's been a few stories like that, and drunken idiot and effective hacker don't necessarily go together. They could, but I think that's it. But yeah, it's just a matter of time before someone who has both of those things.
Well, hacking a car is
sitting on a footbridge and goes, yeah, let's shut the parkway down. It'll be funny, and then everybody's drive-by-wire and their car goes dead, and they're like, oh no.
But it's not that difficult because of the CAN buses, and it's just. You could use this special Wireshark programs, but specifically designed for cars and CAN buses, and you can start just dropping packets in there. And maybe I'm giving too much information, but lower the ID
number.
Out there. But lower the ID number, and the CAN bus is more important.
Here we give too much information. It isn't really the show unless we give too much information.
But hacking cars is pretty easy, and messing up that CAN bus, oh my God.
Yep.
So I had a friend that hacked the car, and so there are dealer installed options that you have to be turned on, and they turned him on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You'd be amazed what that OB2 thing could do, and those ports and those what you could do, not do.
Right. No, I wouldn't be amazed. I already know. I'm very cynical. Car hacking is one of my pet peeves. So I isolated my telematics unit in my car. So you could read my tire pressures, but that's all you could do to me.
Good.
You know, but like I was like, wow, you know, it's all new cars in the parking lot. These guys are doomed. You know, I'm amazed. You know, like, I think the only thing that stopped people is because nobody wants to, you know, do a murder rap for a prank. But
you will have, I think, eventually you will have some kids screwing even the parking lots. I could see it happening in maybe 7 years. You'd be like at a major mall in the country, and you have some kids.
Yeah, well, I guess that would actually be a logical place for a prank because the car's not moving yet.
No, I could see people like having the windows turned up and, you know, the alarms going off, or
you know, or they just go in their car and they go to start it instead of the engine turning over. Just Rick Ashley comes on the radio and that's all that plays for 20 minutes.
No, I see it happening.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
So.
Yeah, there you go. That's your car hacking protocol. If you're looking to wake people up without killing them,
And you could go
Rick Ashley on the telematics unit.
Or if you want to learn more about car hacking, there's some really good websites out there, and go to junkyards, and you could buy dashboards and learn.
Right. Well, so
You could practice.
This is the problem with the car hacking. You know, like a lot of the techs work in big cities, and there's no space. So, like, I'm interested in this, but I only have, you know, 2 parking spaces, and I don't want to dismantle a car in one of them.
No, you don't have to. Just go buy a dashboard. You can buy certain parts.
Yeah, there was a guy who built a go-kart with all the CAN bus parts, and basically just put the CAN bus parts on the go-kart with the engine, you know, so that way it would be smaller. But it's still not the same, right? You know,
No, but you have to learn.
Every part you remove changes something.
Yeah, but you just need to start learning the concepts of how all this works, and
Right, yeah.
and you have to start somewhere.
Right.
And just buying a dashboard.
Yeah, very few people are doing it, so anything you do is good.
Right.
You know, it makes it safer, and you know, with enough eyeballs, you know, was that Linus quote? With enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow.
Right.
You know, and if there's almost no eyeballs right now, so the bugs are not shallow at all.
Was it Fiat that was offering like $1,000 for each bug that they find?
Yeah, Honda just opened up their whole. Joe was telling me about this. They just opened up their whole software suite for the cars, so people could start going in there and looking for security flaws.
Okay.
So, but like you get that, but then on the other hand, you get companies like John Deere or GM, which are just like completely locking everything down, so you can't even touch it. You know, forget about finding a bug. Right, even though there's a security exemption now in the DMCA, you know, forget about finding a bug. You can't even manipulate basic variables and change the parameters the thing was built to work from the factory, and they can't think of everything.
And you know, it'd be really cool if that, like APIs, so you could change like your tactometer, and you can move it all around. Like if you have like a glass display, and you can move it here and there, or change the colors.
Well, you know, I know, I can
do a really cool API.
I can hear the car executives in my ear. You know, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say safety.
No,
we can't do.
You still have the same information. You could just customize it.
It's just crap. It's total crap.
Total crap.
Yeah, I don't buy it at all.
So.
Yeah. So okay, that's interesting. We kind of jumped topics, but that's okay.
Okay.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, that I brought to it, I'm kind of curious, when you're working on designing a network, so you're mainly doing networking right now.
Right. I just finished CCIE boot camp, which was pretty intense, and hopefully I'll be going to Cisco Live. That's my goal in San Diego. We'll see if that happens.
Do you have the freedom where you can design things bottom up, or are you doing everything top down?
Network.
You know, like, you know, do this, and then there's a network that wasn't planned, or are you actually able to say, no, wait, give me this money, this time, this equipment, and let me plan it out?
I am
kind of an engineering approach.
I am working on a network design for a bottling plant.
Okay.
And which we're going from the bottom up.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, that's good. That's great.
It's truly amazing.
It's so much more refreshing when it's like that.
It's like, you know, it's...
You'll learn a lot top down because of the chaos, but it's really hard for any kind of merit or fairness, or, you know, just because everything's chaos. Right. You know, nobody can take credit or blame because, you know, it's just a bunch of random decisions stuck together with poor glue.
Super glue or Elmer's glue?
Yeah, Elmer's glue. Definitely Elmer's glue. I'm out of coffee.
Oh my God.
All right, anyway. That's all right. I'm probably wired enough. Okay, that was interesting. Why did I circle that? That's a weird thing
No,
to
we
talk
can talk
about.
more about network design.
Sure, please.
Talk about how I'll make a decision. I and some other persons, we're making decisions that will affect the building. Think about this. That building would probably be up for easy 50, 60 years. We're making decisions about fiber and home running.
Right. It wasn't designed with this in mind at all.
No, it was a brand new building that was built.
Oh, you're actually getting into you're helping design the building itself.
No. The building was all designed.
Oh, okay.
And we get the blueprints.
Right.
And then we have to figure out,
So you have the shell, but nothing else.
Right, with the shell, and it's like, we're building out the data center, and then we have to, we're putting out 25 IDFs and over 200 access points, and
I know a couple of people who helped with Cold Springs. They actually got to design the building too. So that
wow.
was that was
No, the building's all
a building
pre-designed.
just for being a data center,
And so we have, we can use blow fiber. We can blow fiber. Or we can,
What is blow fiber?
So blow fiber is a really cool technology.
All right.
Where you just take fiber and you blow it through pipes, and then you can it's how you light things up. So it's a little high upfront cost, but you'll save a fortune of money when you have to add extra IDFs. What's an IDF?
Right.
So you have your data center, or you have. So you could have a small.
So you're talking about running extra fibers, cables,
Well, we're talking
or
about
extra fiber strands? I mean,
What's about like
dark fibers that you might need to use later. Is that what you're talking
think about it like that.
Okay. It's
So, like fiber
slang.
string.
I'm like, okay, I know about dark fiber. Okay,
No,
cool.
not dark fiber. Dark fiber is different. It's fiber in the building. We're talking about we have pipes, and you just blow fiber through.
Oh, the pipe is designed so that you can use air compression.
And just blow fiber through.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
Yes.
Oh wow! So you design that system, and then whatever you need.
What we do is we design it in the sense is that we'll put demarcs all over the building, whatever, and so we could. So if you want to add it, so an IDF you have to put every 300 meters, 300 feet. So Ethernet cable runs 100
Right, that's
meters.
about the limit of Ethernet.
But you can do more.
Right.
So
well, that's fine. That's good for top down, but not really for bottom up.
So-
Right. Then there's questions.
No. So when you're working on a building, on a bottling plant that's over 650,000 square feet.
Right.
So
And there might be different physical buildings too, so you got to worry about ground currents and stuff.
So that's more campus design. So think about this building. It's longer than the Empire State Building.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's longer than the Empire State. Okay.
Wait. Do you get around with segways? No.
Golf carts.
Sorry, that's our
Golf
stick. Steve's like, oh my God, I heard it again.
Oh my God! No, it's longer than Empire State Building. If you put it
Wow, that's
inside.
crazy.
So you have to think about it so that's why you have 25 IDFs because you home run with fiber optics back into the data center, and then you have to run because you're running over 200 access points. Is that the access? Because if the IDF is a switch, and then you put the cables go up the columns, and then so even 50-foot ceilings or whatever. So if you even have the switch, an IDF is a box with a switch,
Yeah, I'm
basically some
familiar.
other equipment, and then if you put it against the wall. And you have the access points up. Think about it. You're going up 50 feet.
Right.
It's about 30 meters.
Right.
And then going out.
Yep.
Maybe another.
Right, and you lose some at the ends.
Well, you can do the 100 meters or 300 feet or whatever. Easily.
Right.
So maybe that's why you need 25 of them throughout the building.
Wow.
And that's it.
Wow. So what are they communicating with? Is it just points on an assembly line? Like, oh, okay, yes, I'm okay. I'm putting bottles on a conveyor belt. Yes, I'm okay. I put the cap on.
No, so that's a different thing. So that's PAL. That's a different type of network, and that's Cisco too.
Are you responsible for that also, or are you just doing the? Or have you had a hand in it?
I have a hand in it.
Okay, cool.
And so that's so we'll do a lot of this will be done RFID, and we'll be moving. It's gonna be a lot. It's supposed to be robotics, with a lot of robotics in there moving.
Right. So RFID. So someone has to walk around with a scanner and scan all this stuff in.
No, RFD is just if it's just a chip in here.
Right.
It'll know exactly where you are.
Oh, I see. So you have RFID scanners all over the building,
But the
and you're using it
access
almost like GPS.
The access points will pick up that.
Okay, I see how you.
Will pick up the.
I didn't know any of this. This is interesting.
Yeah, so it'll know exactly where you are, triangulate you, and it's like, and in fact, we could do it now. Is we could take your phone and we could pull it up where you're in the building through your phone. We could track you through by your phone.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see some hijinks ensuing from that.
We could do some like really wild stuff.
Well, you know, this kind of like not only for keeping track of whatever RFIDs you see in the building, but also keeping track of also women in tech. It's kind of the same thing. At some point, there has to be a little more forgiveness, right? You know, like you were an extra 5 minutes on lunch. You can't make a huge deal out of it, right? Because every time somebody messes something up, if they're on the phone with their wife about a kid or their kid or something. Right?
Also, so talk about security is so machines that run assembly line and stuff has to be isolated on its own separate network on physical different switches than regular switches and stuff, because you just don't want. Think about it.
Right. Well, if you get into a network through any point, the network is only as strong as the weakest point.
Right.
Right.
So a lot of times, what they do in manufacturing, it doesn't matter what any widget. What they like to do is the machines that run those production lines on a completely separate physical network than the regular other networks.
Right. Yeah, of course. Right. I actually do that. I'm going to do that with my security network.
Okay.
So, like a quick tip for someone at home who's just starting with networking and doesn't know that much about it. If you get one of those inexpensive but coherent security systems, where there's it's pre-paired with Wi-Fi cameras and a Wi-Fi DVR kind of thing, don't put it on the internet.
No.
Oh no. Yeah, just leave it off the internet, and it's actually relatively secure, because then someone's got to sit out front with a van to hack it.
Because
if you put it on the internet, it becomes an attack point on the Internet of Things.
Change the default password.
Right.
Definitely change.
Yeah, of course. Right.
And have a good firewall.
Right.
Don't use the firewall that your cable modem provider, your internet provider gives you.
Right.
So.
Or create another device with the same ESSID, or suspiciously similar ESSID, and then set up a honeypot, and then
that's too much
and set up several Wi-Fi points and triangulate them, and then when they try to attack it, you launch missiles.
There we go. I like that.
You send your robot army after them. I need more free time.
I have my nanobots get you.
Right. Little RC cars and like. What is that? Is that an RC car underneath us?
No, that's old school.
Yeah, man.
We used to
straight out of Caddyshack.
No, I'm the drone. I'm the drone girl. I'll drone you.
Oh, okay. You don't want land-based vehicles. That's for weaklings.
That's right.
Yeah.
Talking about. I don't know. Maybe I should tell you this story, but this.
No, please.
No, this is so.
Go ahead, ruin your life for my stupid show. That'll be fun.
There we go. We get banned. So we get those. I have a couple stories. So how you get those phone calls saying you have a problem with your computer, and you for $250.
They got one of my neighbors. I was pissed.
So what we did is we set up. So we did it. We took a VM and we fucked it up really bad, and we had them come in and stuff, and we would say is they want to get paid, and they said go down to a 7-Eleven and stuff. We would keep them on hold, and then we would just come back. I'd say we'll go on hold for 20 minutes. We'll come back, and we say we'll give them make up like credit card numbers, and we'd always fail and stuff.
Right. And you just totally time sync them.
Oh, we time sync them big time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Big time.
So I may or may not have done time syncing to more legitimate agencies and or organizations.
Right.
I cannot confirm or deny. But eventually, they, if they're big enough and old enough, they figure it out, and they're like, I know what you're doing. Right? As long as you don't curse, they got to stay on the phone. So they're trapped.
And we had someone.
Little revenge.
Another one of those callers. I would just say from the southeast continent.
Yes.
We called back. They gave us a number when we called back, and what we did is took a ABC government agency, and we spoofed the caller ID with that agency.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And we said, can you check caller ID? And the guy goes, yeah. And I go, we know where you live, we know where your family lives, and we're going to join you in 24 hours.
So I haven't done. That's way cooler. I have not, but I have payphone trolled a striking union once.
Okay.
And made threats that were consumer with the things that were happening in the news.
Okay.
They were so bad because I was a kid, so they could tell from my voice I was a kid. They were so pissed at me. I'm like, yeah, come find me.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll find you. We'll find you.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah. All right, enough incriminating myself.
Yeah.
So actually, one of the things I wanted to talk about with the women in tech, and
Sure,
it's gonna tie into other things.
Okay.
So,
let's go. Let's talk about women.
I wanted to talk about the idea of a meritocracy. So this is something that hasn't really come up on the show before, but I'm trying to work out exactly what's going on here too. So I just need somebody to talk to about it.
Okay, let's talk.
Yeah. So you know what a meritocracy is, right? So a meritocracy is this idea that open source is inherently a meritocracy, right? Because you're become more important in the open source community. Generally speaking, there are exceptions, but you become more important in the open source based on what you're contributing.
Right.
So your contributions define your status.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and the thing that's interesting is that it kind of contradicts technocracy, right? Where technocracy is the technology is what gives you access to upward mobility, right? You can, if you have access to the tech, then you're upwardly mobile, and if you don't, you're not. It doesn't really matter why you don't have access to it, whether you're being discriminated against, whether you just don't have the skills to do it, like the knack,
right,
or whether you don't have the education to do it. There's been a lot of argument on here about whether people have the education versus the skills. So it seems
education and skill level is both.
So it seems right. Well, I mean, so this is something that's come up. Are people in your family techs? Are they? First of all, is anyone in your family a musician? Because there's so many musicians that also cross over with techs. And is anyone a tech in your family?
Not.
Or are you the first tech?
I'm the first tech, technology-wise. My dad's a chemist by trade.
That's totally a tech.
So
he's a technocrat.
I was the firstborn. My parents are the hippie generation, and it was like totally STEM. Well, my dad's a chemist, and my mom was an educator.
Right.
So
mom maybe not, but definitely dad's a technocrat for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a lot of work to get into to become useful in chemistry, especially in that era.
Right.
It was easier back in like the 30s or the 40s, but the chemistry started getting really wild in the 60s.
He has his degree in chemical engineering and all that stuff. And,
so you have technologists in your field too, in your family too.
As a child, I was always being taught about mathematics, numbers. I remember, it was like, how to read numbers and then fractions, and my dad was teaching me always about fractions, and it was like, oh my God, can't I just go out and play? And it was
Did they always correct your grammar and your spelling?
Oh my God.
Yeah. My mom was a teacher, so it was brutal.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, that's part of where my linguistic abilities come from.
Oh.
So it's just my mom would just hit you with the 50-cent words every other sentence.
And it was like diagram. Did your mom make you diagram sentences?
No. So she was a teacher, and she had the shoemakers problem. So she had like the shoemaker has terrible shoes.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So she came home and she was done with teaching. So it was always verbal sparring, yes. Sitting down and enforcing studying, no, not at all.
Oh no. We didn't have the World Book. We had Britannica, and we had to read it, and I had to do reports all the time.
Right.
And oh my God.
Right. So partly discipline and partly genetics.
Yeah.
Sounds like. Okay. So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, my grandma was like an accountant, and I consider that semi-technical.
Yeah.
And my mom was MBA computer teacher. She was wildly successful.
And talking about, which it was good in the sense is, talk about how, another thing is I used to get paid, like, people used to, you know how when the clocks on the VCRs were always flashing 12?
Yeah.
So people would give me like, here's $5. Just could you fix that for me or something?
You were a geek, self-made geek squad fixer.
Yes, my
That's
God.
awesome. You're a geek
like,
handy woman.
Oh my God! And it was.
I never heard that before. That's
You
amazing.
didn't get money fix like they just.
No, people would just trick me into doing it for free. I guess I'm a fool.
No, they would say, yeah, here's like a couple bucks. Can you do this for me? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's like stealing money. And I was like, I could just read the manual or whatever. I was like, to me, it was like
It was probably a bargain for them because to sit there and understand,
It was just for a few bucks here, like, okay.
I mean, I just want to know how everything works. So, I mean, it just drives me crazy when I don't know how things work.
I like to know how things work, but also like when I was a kid, I like getting a few bucks.
Did you break stuff when you were a kid? Did you ever have to fix stuff because you broke it?
That's how I learn.
Yeah.
I'm one of the type of learners.
Yeah, me too. I constantly broke stuff, so I had to fix it. And like usually I wouldn't fix it, but once in a while I would. But I would always learn something in trying to fix it.
Right.
And I got better over time.
My dad was a workaholic, and so to spend time with my dad, I had to do daddy things with him and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Do
stuff he wanted.
He had to be in his space.
Yes, I had to be in his space.
You had to orbit his space in order for him to see you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of that too with my kids sometimes. Sometimes we'll just play and it'll be fun, but sometimes they insert themselves into dad's space. So the cool thing is, I made Minecraft part of my dad's space.
That's pretty cool.
So I made so there's some things like that where it's something that's also in their wheelhouse.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, yeah, we can do this together. So.
Sure. That's important. I think it's important that kids spend time with their family.
You can just dump all your time into your kids. It's crazy, and at some point I also have to go, okay, that's enough. I can't play anymore. I'm not actually 8. I was just pretending, But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So the reason I was getting into the meritocracy and this is good. That whole segue was really wasn't actually a segue at all. It was just kind of like fact building and fact finding. So the idea with the meritocracy, what I'm getting at is, it seems to me that the problem when a person is when there's some kind of prejudice in the workplace, or even outside of the workplace in a field, right? Because it could happen in like a user group.
Oh, so it's like when I was at certain jobs. Like I remember when I first filling out job applications because you're blonde and have you're a girl with blonde hair. It's like they show you how to fill out the job application because you can't fill out.
Did anyone offer you a secretary job when you were applying for something more serious?
Maybe there's some misunderstandings at times.
Yeah. And did you get mad at the time, or was it funny?
No,
I
used humor.
Yeah, humor. That's good.
Humor. You can get away.
You have made a mistake, foolish mortal. Nice. Yeah, you really know your stuff. So I haven't said it yet, but she really does know her stuff. You've actually made some predictions in our group, which I can't talk in detail about, but that were dead bang on. So a lot of the predictions, you don't always make predictions, but when you make predictions about what's happening in an industry or what's going to happen, you usually
talk about I have some other predictions I would like to share.
Right. All right. So yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. So yeah, I think you kind of got the gist of what I'm saying. Is that if organizations would focus more on merit, then they wouldn't have the problems of prejudice. That actually technocracy actually opens up the problems with.
I think technology could be a nice leveling playing field.
Right.
It
totally can.
Yes.
I mean, especially open source. So, I mean, everything really great I've accomplished in my life, I did on my own. I didn't ask permission. Nobody taught me how to do it. They may have taught me pieces of it, but I was the driving force. I was my manager. And I think a lot of that, and a lot of the places I've succeeded, a lot of the spaces I've succeeded have been meritocracy. So when on the one hand, I'm disappointed when I see prejudice in the workplace. On the other hand, I'm like, well, the problem is the workplace. If it's not meritorious enough, then that's really
I think-
why this can. It can't happen if it's a perfectly meritorious workplace. The argument I'm making is it can't happen.
I'm thinking, but it comes down from the culture of the corporation or the leader, of like the leader sets the culture for that department.
So do you think he's okay? So I would argue then that if that's what's happening, that leader is actually using the technocracy to create an environment where at least the prejudice can flourish, if not actively encouraging it themselves. And I could say herself too, because it could be a woman doing it too.
Right.
You know, a woman could be a racist or against a religion. You know,
Sure.
I mean, I know that's like nobody ever talks about that. Like that's a protected class. No.
Women
in a meritocracy, there are no protected classes.
No, women could be just as bad as men when it comes to things.
Yes.
In fact, we could be.
No, you can't be meaner. I know what you're going to say.
No, yeah. What is it? What's that saying? Oh my God.
Guys could be monsters. I've seen it.
No, that's I don't want to say it because I'm gonna ruin it.
Okay.
But when it comes to me, men could be.
We can come back to it. I mean, we just came back like twice to this. So.
Wait. So was it something like men are dumb, but women could be? We could be mean.
Yeah.
We could be very mean.
There's been a lot of comedy routines on this. So I like going to comedy when you're dealing with something that's kind of cringy and awkward. You know, and you're being really brave with this, and I really appreciate it.
No, because
this is dangerous stuff. Because if you say the wrong thing, you could really hurt someone.
Oh, wait till later. I have other things to say. I could.
Okay. Well, we'll go. Okay. Well, yeah. I think we're. So anyway, the point I wanted to make is that I think if a company is in a situation where prejudice is flourishing in their organization, I think that the real problem is that they're getting away from meritocracy. That people aren't being rewarded for their work, and if you focus mainly on that, it's really hard to be prejudiced. You know.
But I think, if you become prejudiced, or people will leave, you will lose your talent.
Right.
And you will implode.
Well, I think maybe that's the argument for, that's an argument for capitalism, right?
Right.
Because you have all these companies competing against each other, and the broader market is also a form of a meritocracy. So if, one company just goes too far down the rabbit hole, bye-bye,
right.
down the drain.
You will lose
flushing
talent.
noise. If we had sound effects, I'd do a flushing sound effect.
No. Not the Howard Stern show.
Yeah, it's not the Howard Stern. We are definitely not the Howard Stern show. I like Howard Stern, but he did that already, right? We're doing something different. So anyway, you'd probably have to take your clothes off or run around and dance, and that would kind of defeat the purpose of talking about women in tech and respecting them and being against prejudice.
There we go. So next time I can wear a corset.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not.
Have you ever been asked to dress differently for a job because like to be dressed sexier or change your hairstyle or?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
No.
So yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I've been in pretty well balanced organizations, but I've seen a lot of organizations that are not.
And for the most part, I've been in pretty balanced organizations too. For the most part.
Yeah.
Except here.
Yeah, I think New York is doing better than a lot of. I'm hearing horror stories from other parts of the country. I think the New York City metro area has a lot of good organizations and companies in it.
I think New York,
where people are actually actively trying to be fair and form a meritocracy.
We live in a bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, we work in the bubble. We live in the bubble. Everything here is, I think, very different.
Right.
Compared to lots of other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. And I think our industry is very unique in the sense that we're very global. Because it's like you go to any IT department, you have people from almost every continent of the world in our IT departments.
I think in the IT field specifically, and there's definitely other fields like this, but definitely in the IT field, especially in like the open source space, and especially in the past 20 years, there's no substitute for intelligence.
Right.
You can't fake it.
Right.
You can't just go to school and then walk in there and you have to actually use the stuff.
Right.
You actually have to know how the things work because there's plenty of vaporware and fake promises out there. Right. And then like you go, oh yeah, like this thing says it'll do this. I mean, I've seen companies dump millions of dollars into projects where promises were made from vendors that were not only not fulfilled, but not fulfillable, where the software didn't even do what they said it would do.
Well, is that management being gullible and not asking the right questions? And maybe just being ostriches, keeping their head in the ground.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you deal with a lot of proprietary licenses in the network space, so. I mean, I know Cisco is one of the better. I know a lot of the stuff you're working with at the moment is Cisco. And Cisco is one of the better companies with that, but at least with predictability.
Right. Well, they always change. Well, dealing with Cisco, it's not. I mean, so the phone system licensing is a nightmare.
Yeah. What could they do to fix it?
Telephony. Oh my. I don't know, but I had to. I was working on a project of phone system upgrade, and we had to figure out cool licenses and these type of licenses, and you could have a phone that you could assign multiple licenses. I mean, multiple license types.
Right.
So there's a phone in the hospitality room. What type of license does that have compared to a phone on a desk? Mm-hmm. It's just insane the amount of. They just made maybe 2 licenses,
Right.
Which they said. So got a little bit better near the end is so if it's just a user with a voicemail, it's one type of license. If it's just a phone with no voicemail, whatever, or just no account associated with it, it's a totally different license.
Right. Wow. Okay. So is the license manager on a piece of gear, or is there no license manager at all? Is it just a file?
No. So
I mean, sometimes there's just technical problems with the license manager itself or whatever software. I've seen that too, where you can be on the phone with tech support all day just trying to get the license manager to actually work.
I'm talking about so now with new Cisco routers and stuff, you have to install your licenses. Mm-hmm. You go in command line and you type in and it activates the licenses, and you have to reboot a few times.
Right.
And sometimes
are they transitioning? Is that why it's so confusing, or is they're misrepresenting
it's getting better now with the routers and the switches, and
okay, good.
It's much better.
So they're on it. They've been getting complaints and they're reacting to it.
I think so. I think.
Come on. We can just assume they've been getting complaints if it's that bad.
Except I have to say something. Do not, when you buy. Talking about licensing is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's pretty cool how now it's easy, especially when you buy new equipment and you put licenses in for the feature set licensing and all that stuff is a lot easier. But for the love of God, if you're going to buy Cisco equipment, do not buy it from non-authorized vendors.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because
I've heard
of
that
the
before.
licensing and all that. Mm-hmm. Because if you try to call tax support and
right.
then first of all, you can't with certain corporate, just say the top 100 corporations like Cisco or 3M or buy from an authorized dealer. You
right.
have to.
Right.
Have to today.
Yeah.
It's not like 20 years ago where
I get it. There's counterfeits out there, and
right.
there's people who are taking liberties with licenses they shouldn't be.
And machines have to call home now, basically.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm out of the loop, so it's been a while since I've been involved with Cisco rollout. They have to call home and get verified, and just get from an authorized It's
dealer.
so weird because there's all this competition coming from the Linux appliance space. There's several other network companies that are
Yeah, there's some.
They have networks and switches and everything that work together, and you can actually get into the shell and manipulate the machine directly. And you think they would be more responsive, not less.
I think Cisco's pretty good. I think they make the best equipment. The rocks. I don't want to do a commercial.
It's worth the pain.
The licensing is fine. Once you just read the manual, read the damn directions. Once you read the directions and follow A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Just
do you
follow.
read? Do you read?
You have to.
No, I mean just do you read for fun, or do you just read technical manuals?
Oh, for fun?
Yeah. Well, which one do you read more? Do you? Obviously, you have to read technical manuals, right?
Yes. Live and die by it.
Do you get to read fiction or nonfiction or anything?
Oh my God, I just brain fart.
But you do.
Yes.
Okay. Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction?
I prefer fiction.
Okay.
I prefer fiction and political politics.
Politics.
I like-
We can talk politics if you want to talk politics.
Sure.
I don't like to open that door because it's dangerous, right? But like I said, you've been pretty brave, so.
Let's go. Let's get braver.
All right, let's get braver. I could open up with something. Let's talk about. Let's start with. Here, I got something for you.
Okay.
What do you think about Beto? Is it Beto? No, it's Beto. Beto O'Rourke. So this is the guy.
Which one of them?
He's one of the Democratic presidential candidates, and this is particularly interesting in the technocracy because I think he's our first full-fledged technocrat politician running for president.
Okay.
So this guy was a card-carrying member of the Cult of the Dead Cow. Remember the Cult of the Dead Cow, back orifice? Yeah, so they created this suite of programs. They were hacktivists.
Okay.
And they created this suite of programs to highlight a bunch of exploits that were in Microsoft for a long time.
Like Mimikatz and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so they created the back office and a couple other projects, and actually it turns out he's one of the hackers from that group, and he's running for president. So what do you think about that? Does that legitimize him more or delegitimize him?
I think a lot of politicians are retarded. They have no concept of technology. No, they are. They are retarded.
Yeah.
We have politicians making laws about technology and internet and internet access, and they're clueless, utterly clueless.
Right. Are they just not even on the reservation? They're just not even in the same space at all. Well, I know that constantly politicians are getting laws written by companies, and then they just rubber stamp them. Okay,
that sounds good.
That sounds good. And they have no idea what the. I mean, I totally get that they don't understand the technological part of it, but there's always social implications in those laws too. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with the show. I think is the important space to talk about, but it's also a fun space. Is the marrying of those two things, right?
Right. No, I just have very little opinion of today's politicians. I think they're just brain dead, retarded. It's all about
So you must love this guy then. I mean, he clearly knew what he was doing if he was one of the hackers.
Oh, definitely.
So that was it. Lee Wilbur had a very similar reaction because I know you're. Lean more towards Republicans, and it's interesting that you would be like, oh, okay, well, forget it. This guy's a Democrat. I don't care. I like him.
I'm more pragmatic.
Okay, so you're I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
No, you're not. You're right. But I think of myself more as, as a network engineer. I need things to work, and I believe some of the ideologies.
So you're American.
Yes. God bless America.
America invented pragmatism, literally. Who cares what you think if it doesn't work?
Right. I think politics today, or the politicians, have become very demagogues. Demagogues.
Yeah.
They just have shit for brains.
Right. Well, how do you think that this happened? Is it because the media coddled them into this corner? Oh, sorry.
I think it all started. Is they try to put I don't know how do you say it? Is one world order? Mm-hmm. And
you think it's a globalist kind of push?
So. I think it's a globalist push to socialize, to bring socialism to America. Socialism to America.
Well, I don't think anyone seriously, maybe they secretly want communism, but nobody's publicly calling for communism.
I think, but today's kids, they don't know the difference between socialism and communism. They can't. Right. I think they have no clue.
Well, it's subtle. I mean, and you can't. And of course, what's the reading material they're sent to learn it? Marx, and Marx doesn't really get into that.
No,
Marx is, if you, what's socialism? Read Marx. You read Marx. Okay, this is socialism. No, that's not. Right.
But I think,
the conversation, the education, and the conversation that results from it is dysfunctional right off the bat.
I think Marx is one of the top 10 murderers of the world.
Yeah, I think so too.
So he definitely.
But he also had some great observations. Some of his observations were spot on, and some of them were dead wrong. And the dead wrong ones are the ones that got all those people killed, I think.
But I think to push.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I can do either side.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but I think
I'm viciously independent. So I think anybody who tries to pull me over one side or the other, I'll get him.
No, that's why I said
I'll get him. As W would have said.
I think think about it is our politicians today are writing so many administrative laws for agencies, and there's thousands and thousands of.
Right. Well, that's to me, that's a police state.
It is a police state, and it's tyranny.
Because you're constantly breaking laws, and you just don't realize it. And all you need is an advanced, persistent threat within the bounds of government.
Right.
You know, a bureaucratic advanced, persistent threat, and you're dead.
Right.
They're going to find something, and you're dead.
It's tyranny. It's tyranny.
It is tyranny. I agree.
And so.
Yeah, a bureaucratic. Yeah, I guess that's a good definition. Would you agree with that definition that
that the bureaucracy is tyranny?
Yeah, that bureaucracy is, as an advanced, persistent threat, is a police state.
It is.
Those two things are exactly equal.
It goes back to, you talk about books reading, is Hyatt wrote To Serfdom. If anyone is interested, or just go to YouTube.
So you're a Hayek fan, huh?
I'm a huge Hayek fan.
Okay.
You know, I think Keynesian economics is evil.
Yeah.
It destroyed England.
It's definitely crazy sometimes.
But think about it is, do you want someone coming to your house and telling you how big of a house you want, how big of a couch you should have,
right,
and measuring out your space and all that?
So I guess you're not a fan of the Fed's hedonic models.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Hedonics are where you're constantly where you can use comparative structures to price things. So, okay, well, we don't know what this costs, but we know what this costs. And it used to be the relationship between these two things was 1 to 2. So we're going to call it 1 to 2 from now on, which of course is crazy because you're slowly picking away the ability of the market to tell you what the prices are.
But I think the problem is there's so much government intervention, involvement in our economy today. There is no what type of a market do we have?
Right.
So.
Yeah. I agree, and actually that's the problem in general with government interference, whether you're calling it socialism or not, is that whenever you set a price, you don't know what that price would have been if you hadn't set it.
Right.
You know, and it's not a big deal if it's one price and it's for a little while, but if it's all the prices and it's for a long time, it gets crazy, right? Madness ensues.
Madness, definitely.
Yeah, and actually this is one of the things. So I've frequently thought that the thing that's broken with socialism is the thing that's really desperately broken is corruption, and corruption grows over time. It's inherently,
yes.
It's part of the human condition.
Yes.
And the longer you're leaving price fixing structures in place, the more likely they are to become corrupt, and the more distort. Also, it's a double thing. The corruption grows, and the distortion of what the market price would be if you had never interfered with it grows. And you need those prices provide you information.
But if you have like socialism, they control the prices. There's government planning. There's no freedom of choice.
Right.
And I think as human beings, we're meant to be free.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Well, to choose.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. So I think so. I think the key is one of the ways you avoid. And this goes back to the globalism thing that we were talking about before. One of the ways that you avoid this situation, giving people a hand up is good, but giving people a handout isn't. So the question is, when does it go from a hand up to a handout?
I think America has always been the most generous nation in the world, and we've always been extremely generous, taking care of our people and taking care of others.
We certainly have a far-reaching military, don't we?
But no, wait. No, let's just talk about that's a different subject. Let's talk about. It's like I have girlfriends.
Well, they always come together. That's part of what I'm getting at.
No, let's talk about the generosity of America.
Right.
Is I had girlfriends that went overseas to do, study, and our version of giving, of the average person giving to churches and organizations, is not known throughout the world. That's an inherently American thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Americans for sure. Yes.
And that's not a global thing. That's an American thing about.
But that's individuals making choices, and this has actually been the conservative argument for a long time: is that individuals contributing to charity is the way to show kindness.
It is,
and you can't institutionalize charity, and I agree with that to a degree. But I think that the key is, if you are going to institutionalize charity, if you're in a situation where you feel like you have no other choice and no one is stepping up and no one is doing it.
But I'm not saying that. Is America will always give. We always help out. We always help the poor. We always help the needy.
But there's always blind spots too, right? Because the information isn't smooth. It's getting smoother, right? In the information between the internet and social media.
We're talking two different things, I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
No, because I'm thinking that we, as Americans, we always have been really generous and giving.
As individuals,
as individuals,
right.
And I think when we start,
well, I think it's the same discussion.
But if we start imposing with socialism, is you taking my money and then you're not giving me the choice. You're taking my. So when the government, like
I agree.
says, they're taking my money out, and that's wealth distribution.
Right.
And how much is enough?
Right.
You know, I make a very nice salary, but I can't afford to buy a house on Long Island.
Right.
And
I can't use it. The only reason I was able to buy a house was because I basically went into a whole different field of study, and we started studying interest rates and economics, and I figured out, you know, based on market trends I saw, I said, okay, there's a housing bubble. This thing's going to crash. Right. And I waited and I waited and waited, and sure enough, it did crash. And when it did, I snatched up a house at the bottom. That's the only reason I could afford to buy a house, and that's not. You know, most people are not going to have. That's not. You're not building a healthy society when you need to have that entire skill set.
Right.
You know,
no, you're not.
You shouldn't have to be a jack of all trades to function in an economy. No. Obviously, that's a broken economy. Right. You want people to be able to specialize, because that's how you get economies of scale. So yeah, I agree with that. That's not fair at all. You should be able to afford a house.
But how much is enough? How much do they have to take out before? How much do I have to support?
Right.
It's like, why does the bureaucrat think he knows better how to handle my money than I do? He thinks he's better handling my money?
Right. So here's one of the things that I think that should happen in all laws, not just whether they're handout laws or not. You know, any law where you're trying something new. I think this should have happened. In my opinion, this even should have happened with something where there was a ton of natural law. So you know what natural law is? It's
yes, I think of natural law as the Constitution. What makes America so special is God gave us our rights. The inalienable rights?
Yeah.
Where they can't be taken away. And
I think I completely, it's easy to agree with the idea of inalienable rights.
And that's what I think what makes us so special compared to a lot of European countries which are socialized.
Right.
Is when the government gives you a right, the government can take it away.
Right.
But when God gives me my rights, you can't take that away.
Right. Yeah, and that's the danger with moving away from the God-provided rights model. And that's the problem with the God-provided rights model is that sometimes it gives religions extra power, maybe too much power. You know, there's been abuses in the past, for sure.
Yes, there's always been abuses.
Right.
I mean,
I'm religious. I'm Christian. I believe in God, but I can totally take the atheist point of view too. So remember, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm giving you the counter arguments, which should make your argument stronger theoretically, right?
No, but when you have a society that believes in the Ten Commandments,
right,
and you have a stronger society instead of everything. When you have a society that does not believe in the Ten Commandments, anything goes.
Right.
If it feels good, do it. You know.
So I would argue that you could have a society that would succeed that didn't believe in the Ten Commandments, believed in all 10 Commandments. That you could abstract it more than that, and that yes, I mean I realize. So you mentioned in the panel that you're Jewish.
Yes.
So the Ten Commandments are your rules.
Right.
And they're my rules too.
Right.
But at the same time, there could actually be a broader set of rules. Theoretically, there could be a broader set of rules that didn't necessarily contradict them, but that were more clear cut. And the question is, where would they come from, right? And actually, so this is the answer I think comes from an atheist. He didn't realize he had the answer, or he did, but he didn't specify what it was.
Right.
It's not. He didn't give the answer. He just said this is how we could find it, and that you could theoretically get rights from science. But how do you do that, right? So I think the key is to look at the human beings and compare them to the animal kingdom, and say, okay, what are the things that human beings do that are unique? And of course,
we could reason.
Well, we're notoriously bad at this. In the past, we've done it wrong, right? We said tools. But it turns out that's complete crap.
No, because you've seen chimpanzees use tools.
Right.
And they made tools.
Right. Yeah, of course, right, exactly. And it actually turns out there's other species that can use tools as well. So that was a terrible. So 100 years ago, if you asked someone that question, what separates us from animals, and they were a scientist, they would say tools.
Right.
But they'd be wrong.
No.
Yeah. So that's the risk of using science as a model, and that's one of the reasons I'm not like out there beating a drum like, yeah, we're going to go away from the God model and come up with a broader model, and that's why it was such a success all this time.
Right.
And again, I agree with you that Europe is kind of has this, according to our platform of philosophical principles. I think philosophical principles is always going to be a slippery slope and dangerous because it's always going to be able to shift it
and adjust it and change.
You're one study away from losing rights.
Right.
Even if it's bogus.
And do you? I want my rights. I want to keep my rights. I want to have rights for my children. I want my children to inherit
rights.
And
there's definitely people out there inventing rights too, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
For sure, people have rights to the craziest things. I have right to Slurpees.
Also, I think another important thing is what makes America so great is we do things because we're allowed to do things. Mm-hmm. We don't ask permission to do things. In Europe, you ask permission to do things. Here, we do things until we're told we're not allowed, until we're told not to do it. And I think that's a huge difference.
Right.
And I think that's why we also have Silicon Valley, going back to tech, is because we have the mindset is we can do anything we want until we're told we can't do it.
We can do anything we want because we're technocrats.
That's right. We control it, and that's what I think.
Wonderful.
Europe doesn't have what? Silicon? No, Europe doesn't have Silicon Valley. I mean, they do, but they don't have it like.
Well, we have a mini. So there's interesting. So we have in New York, we have a mini Silicon Valley that we're kind of competing with them. And one of the things that's definitely different about the New York area compared to the Silicon Valley area is there is more religion here.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons there's kind of a different culture.
I know there are technoparks and parks, and I know there's Silicon Valleys in Europe too, but it's not like Palo Alto and stuff.
Well, I would say it's Silicon Valley, New York.
Right.
As far as software is concerned.
Israel.
In Israel, yes, I would put that number 3.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think New York's ahead of Israel, but Israel's definitely in there. I've been offered jobs in Israel, so I didn't take them.
No, I would.
It's really far away.
No, I have a girlfriend that says, I'm my Hebrew sucks, but I think if I got a nice offer to go to Israel and work there, as long as it's on and near Herzliya, near the harbor, and I would definitely do it. I'd do it definitely.
Yeah. You would take a trip to Israel and work over there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Or you probably would be able to bounce back. I mean, I guess at some point you'd be able to telecommute too, right? Well, I guess not in networking, right? That's the job. That in data centers is you got to physically be there.
No, I think as long as I at my level try not to touch layer 1.
Right.
So.
Oh, you're I don't do layer 1.
No. Oh, when I get.
Laugh with me. Running cables, how uncivilized.
When I get my CCIE number, I'll be like.
I'm kidding with you.
I know. I'm
running cable sucks. Yeah, if usually you're in the hottest part of the building. It's completely filthy because no one's been there in years. And
my greatest excuse is I'm wearing a skirt, or a dress.
Right. And it's hard to run cables alone, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to run cables in a dress.
I'm wearing stilettos.
I think I'm going to start wearing a dress when someone asks me to run cables. So.
But I do look better in a dress than you.
You probably do. I've got great legs, but I look like a Yeti. So. I'm part Chewbacca.
Chewbacca, oh my God.
I'm giving you too much information. What was that? Oh yeah, too much information. All right, TMI. Be ready to invoke, to keep a meritocracy fair, you got to be ready to invoke TMI.
Okay.
So the point that I was trying to make before, it's pretty simple, is that you're familiar with sunsets, the legal concept of a sunset?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that all laws should be sunsetted. And the reason why is, so when the government gets the bright idea that says, I'm going to do this or that for people, it should end itself. And it shouldn't just renew itself. Yeah. It should be a fight every time.
Right.
And then that's one of the ways, because what that does, and also the other thing I think that makes the idea of socialized compassion more tolerable is making it local. And actually, so I'm very much in favor of local rights. And because usually these things start in a locality that's having a problem. I mean, they just legalize mushrooms in Colorado. I'm not going to get mad about that. I don't care.
Well,
actually, I think it's a little crazy, but
You know what? So let's talk about, you know.
but good for you, Colorado. You solved your problem.
Right.
You know, I don't see a reason why it affects me.
Well, remember, so the federal government was created by the states. Remember, it's a compact. It's
Right.
a compact from the states that created the federal government.
And once in a while, Texas reminds us,
And we'll
stop being a pain in my butt. I'm going to leave.
So we'll talk about that.
Yeehaw! Bang, bang, bang. I love Texas.
I love Texas.
I love Texas too.
So I came.
How could you not love that attitude?
Holy shit! I came really close to moving to Houston a few times. The traffic.
You're not the only person in our user group either. I've talked to a couple
Oh
other
my
people.
God! The traffic. I love Tex-Mex food, but the traffic in Houston is truly amazing. And
The top food. So if you've never been to Texas, the top food is definitely tacos. Everyone just goes and gets tacos.
I have,
for lunch.
like, when I get off the
soft
plane-
tacos and
so I have my favorite restaurants. As soon as I get off the plane, I don't even check into my hotel or wherever I'm going, or my friend's place. We just meet. I have my favorite restaurants. We all, it's like.
right. Yeah, it was mind blowing. We went to. Well, first it was hot because it was summer, so we were there in the summer. So that was probably not the brightest idea.
Oh my God! So I remember being at the Galleria Mall, and it was around December. I was like wearing a skirt and stuff. It was like what 80, 90 degrees, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So-
It's down there.
So if you ever like in New
If you're down by
York,
Houston, it's down there.
so if you're going to go to Houston, go to the Galleria Mall. Definitely, that is just an amazing mall.
It's not Dallas.
The Galleria Mall. No, it's in Houston.
I thought it was Dallas.
No, go look it up. Galleria Mall, Houston.
Yeah, Houston's a weird place because it's got those. It basically has no housing regulations. So like, every building's different. There's just like, you know, there's no zoning requirements like there are. Like
Well,
New York, you have like you could build this kind of building here and this kind of building there.
There's one in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, so
Wow,
So-
you guys are both right. That was awesome. Collision.
Favorite buy there.
no, what I love about is just how they just build in Texas. Oh my God, the
Yeah.
loops, and last time I was in Dallas,
So every single house has a pool. Every single house has air conditioning.
you have to.
You have to,
You have
right?
to. Oh.
But the thing that was amazing is we went down there. You know, you've seen
Yeah.
my monster van.
Yes.
It had this ridiculous. It looks like. I mean, I think I'm the only one at least in my county for sure, with a van like this. And I go down to Texas, and it's a dime a dozen. Everybody's got a
Everyone
big lifted
has a-
truck. And I'm just like, if it wasn't for the New York plates and I had a cowboy hat on, they wouldn't know the difference.
You know, it was funny. It was like my first time in Texas. I saw this girl. She was like 5'2", driving like this big ass Silverado. It was like, holy mother! And she's driving it.
She throws out a rope ladder when she gets out.
You know, she's driving it like.
Short wife, big truck.
It was like, holy shit. I mean, she's just driving this thing like it was nothing. It was like, I'd be hitting everything.
Yeah. Well, you get used to it. So having driven old cars, my wife never mastered old cars, but I did.
Okay.
So like old big boats.
Right.
You get used to it. Okay. It's a little bit of a higher learning curve, but it's not a wall. You can get past it.
Okay.
Yeah. In case you're thinking of moving, don't let that stop you. You'll get past it.
Oh no, I'll get myself a Raptor.
Right. Nice. I love Raptors. 80 miles an hour off road. Don't even have to hit any buttons. You just turn.
No.
Bye.
I'll have my.
I have yet to see the police chase where the Raptor gets away instantly because I don't think they ever get to the helicopter stage because he's already gone. But as soon as the cops try to pull a Raptor over, he's just like, yeah, bye.
And
Right off into a field and they never see him again.
And and I have, instead of having the badass evil black gun, I have a Tavor pink. Tavor is the Israeli-made version of a
Oh, okay, cool.
bullpup.
Nice.
The IDF uses it, so I have a pink one.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Everyone's very polite in Texas. It's the strangest thing.
It is.
Everyone's so nice. People are pretty polite in New York too, but not always. Particularly in the subway, it gets weird, especially when you're elbow to armpit.
I found people to be really like guys offer me in their seats and on the subway and stuff.
Yeah. They offered me their seats too. No, I'm just kidding.
Guys,
I'm just making it weird.
I like weird.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. All right, so that's interesting. So you understand what I was saying now about socials, and the point I was trying to make is that, like having an institutionalized the problem, there's a couple of problems with socialism specifically, and I'm glad I can talk to you about this.
Because it's the transfer of wealth. It's just taking.
Right, and the structural problems are it screws with the market.
Right.
So you don't know what the prices are. So the more, if you keep it really local, if you don't make it global or national or even state, if you make it town or county or something, then you have prices to compare it to. If the prices go up in this county and they stay here in this county where there is no social program, you know it's affecting prices.
So
okay, it's not working. But if you make it for everything at once, how the hell do you know what the price is?
Well, talk about price. So talk about affecting prices in counties. So Suffolk County has a 5 cents fee per bag, and Nassau County doesn't. So what do tons of people in Suffolk County do?
Bag smugglers?
No, they go shopping in Nassau County.
Right.
So that's affect.
Yeah.
So that's affecting the economies.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it even affects tourism. I was in Colorado, and I was at a Home Depot, and you had to pay for bags.
Right.
Yeah, and I just bought less stuff. I mean, the first time they got me, right? I didn't know. But actually, I was constantly fixing, and we had this trailer, and you had to fix it sometimes. Stuff, a lot of the stuff I built myself. So this was the maiden voyage. A lot of things were being tested. I fixed them; they're fine now. But I had to buy some things, and I'm like, I went there twice, and the second time I'm like, that can wait,
right?
Because it just annoyed me that I had to pay a bag tax,
right?
Or carry out my stuff like I'm like it's like a cartoon.
But it's quite interesting. It's like when you're in Europe. I've been to Europe many times. Is everyone brings their bag shopping?
Right.
And I said,
which is probably not a problem at Home Depot, but it's really annoying in a supermarket where you have spoiled meat in the bottom of your bag and it smells. And
well, talking about meat is if people are using their bags, you have to be careful. You should only have meat bags because you shouldn't have you bring home that meat, the ground chuck. And then use that bag next week for your vegetables.
Right. Yeah. Totally. That's what I mean. Yeah. It's gross. Yeah. Do you do kosher or you don't?
I do kosher. I don't. No shellfish.
Right.
Stuff like that.
I wonder how that works for cities that have done bag laws that also have large Jewish populations. If they have to make exception. I wonder if you get a religious exception to the bag tax.
That'd be cool.
I think I just started a revolution.
There you go.
Kosher exceptions to the bag tax.
Talking about revolution, I do predict that in my lifetime, I think America is in a post-constitutional.
Yeah.
Definitely post-constitutional right now.
I hope to God not. That would be terrible.
No, we are in a post-constitutional environment right now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're at least still pretending.
It's pretending, but there will be a time where I do predict that there'll be like America 3.0 or 4.0. Well, I think it's going to be more 3.0 because
I see what you're saying. I see the same trend you're seeing, but I see a different result.
But America 3.0, we will be regionalized. There'll be regions where I think there'll be America where it's more socialism. And those states that want to be that way
wouldn't be so bad.
We'll choose that, which I think would be fine. It would be great because
so you're envisioning going back more towards state rights.
Oh, big time. Because I think
I think that would be. I hope that goes that direction too.
Because I think a whole states to be a conglomerate. Say the Northeast will become more socialistic, and we'll be more open about it. We're not open about it, and we are extremely socialist. We're the land of no, and I think more certain other parts of the country will be more rights, individual rights centric.
Right.
We believe in property rights and individual rights. In fact, talking about rights, I call myself a progressive. And I'll explain this. This might sound really weird. I might consider I'm a progressive.
No, it's fine. I can 1,000 voices cried out.
No, because think about it. I think I don't disagree with you. Today's liberal isn't a liberal,
right?
Because I think they're regressives, and I am progressive because I believe in free speech.
Now you're just shit talking.
No, I believe in free speech. I believe in the right to own property.
I am
the right to self-determination and the right to express free ideas, and I will protect that right. And those are liberal ideas. Those are progressive ideas.
Yeah.
The quote unquote liberals.
Yeah, if you dial the clock back to the 80s, I'm a liberal. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm by those standards, I'm right up the middle.
But the quote unquote liberal today is a regressive. They don't believe in property rights. I think they believe in censorship. They don't believe in self-determination.
Right.
They believe in confiscation of wealth. How much federal government?
I think all those things are okay under limited circumstances. You know, you could bring up cases where they work. The problem is
but tell me, when is enough? When is there enough?
Yeah, well, everything's a slippery slope. That's the problem.
There is never enough. They always want more. Want more.
Inherently, so this is the thing. Democracy, in a democracy, whether it's a republic or a democracy, the participants in the democracy have to be informed. They have to be. It's not enough to be trying. You actually have to be right.
But you have to be
about what works and what doesn't.
Right. But today's
you have to be pragmatic.
Pragmatic. You have to.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just want things to work.
Right. Yeah. That's true. I agree with you.
But so I do say is there would be America because the UCC laws and interstate commerce and stuff. There will always be America, but I think there'd be maybe 4 or 5 regional. Would be more like the Soviet Union, ex-Soviet Union.
So the question of commerce going over borders is always comes down to this, and it just drives me. This is like one of, if I had a top 5 things that the journalists failed at in expressing a political standoff, it would be in dealing with commerce over borders. There is a world of difference between free trade and fair trade.
Right.
I am very much against free trade. I like fair trade, and what I mean by that is when you have people on two sides of a border, and one of them has no rights, and one of them has lots of rights. Guess where everything's going to get made? The place where the people are literally slaves.
Right, and it's like
you have to take what rights the people on the other side of a trade pact have as part of the trade pact.
So I remember when China became.
I didn't say China. Yeah, you're right, China.
So I remember when China became.
Sorry, China. It's not great.
Became part of the World Organization, World WTO, and I knew there was a disaster. I knew that would gut the Midwest. How could you not know that? And I knew corporations would be just destroying the factories and moving things over in wholesale. And granted, I believe in money. I do want to own the Gulf Stream. I do want to have nice things, and
everyone wants to have nice things.
And nice, but it's like
well, hopefully we'll get into a situation soon where nice things are way cheaper.
But what is it? Is it
I have
really,
a right to a Gulf Stream.
I do too. But it's like how much is enough do you have to make? Do you have to really gut those factories? Do you really have to make $100 trillion or $100 gazillion? Maybe you could just make $100 billion. Is that maybe enough, or maybe $100 million is enough instead of making?
Well, clearly part of what's happening there is that the gap between the lowest and the highest paid employee is just growing and growing and growing.
Right.
Especially, and often those stats don't even include the golden parachutes and the backup plans.
No.
Now I understand managers take more risk and they should get paid more, but how many more orders of magnitude more do they need to get paid than the lowest paid employee?
I agree.
So I think that is someplace where I am very much on the left, and I think
and I believe
income equity is a big deal, and it was much closer. The further every decade you go back, it gets closer.
And it's disgusting and it's unacceptable. And I think when we have America 3.0, there will be some blowback.
So here's the problem with the going to America smooth. So there's a path forward to a smooth transition to America 3.0, which is the states keep taking more liberties or using the liberties they've always had, and nobody fights them.
But states have given up all their liberty. They've given up, not all, they've given up so much of their liberty to the federal government.
Well, they could just take it back, and the problem is...
But the problem is that the federal government won't let them take it back. But when you get a collection of
they have. It's already happened with marijuana. I mean, marijuana is still a Schedule I drug, federally speking.
Yes,
you can't get a federal job anymore, but there's 40-something states that'll welcome you.
But okay, so let's touch the third rail.
Okay.
So the third rail, let's touch the border. That's
Okay.
a third rail.
Yeah. Okay.
Is
Well, that's just another border, just like China, and
No, but
fair trade versus free trade.
But let's talk about, so Arizona tried to just enforce border laws and use the same laws that the federal government had on the books, and the federal government took them took Arizona to the shed.
Right.
For the spanking.
Right. So they that's going to happen sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes when states try to assert themselves.
But there was certain.
The key is popular support, and one of the reasons that marijuana laws have worked in all the states is because there's popular support of them.
Right.
Because it's just the generations that thought that marijuana was this ridiculous, widowmaker,
Right.
have just died off. And the people who are left are the people who realize, okay, this is either neutral or good. And neutral's good enough. I don't need to interfere if it's neutral. And eventually, so really that's kind of a PR war.
So,
if people see the open borders as good, then they're going to think they continue the way they are. If they see open borders is bad, then you're going to start seeing.
Every country that has open borders.
When you have a whole state that's against it, the country's split 50-50 on this roughly.
But let's talk about, so when you lose your borders, language, and culture, you lose your country. And when you start losing, the first thing is losing your borders.
Right. Well, so here's the problem. So the reason that's happening, and the reason that thing is happening,
is because I think it's the one world order.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I think that well, all right.
So
I don't know.
The left. So the regressors.
I don't know. That is a distinct possibility. I don't really know that.
Okay,
that's
let's not even talk about that. So let's just take the out of the equation. The regressives, I like to say, because I'm a progressive, because I believe in liberty, property,
right,
and things like that. Is they believe in open borders.
So you're not a congresswoman. Right. Sorry. You're not a congresswoman, right? Congress is the opposite of progress.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
continue.
Oh my God. So what was I?
I interrupted you.
Yes.
I interrupted you with my poorly placed hand. Look. I'm not saying we can't talk about that. It's just I don't think there's an answer right now.
No,
I agree with you about the importance of borders.
But they have
identity.
The regressives believe in open borders, and that will destroy.
So the problem is that I think what's happened, and people don't realize they've done it. And you can make this point subtly. You don't have to go guns blazing and flag waving in Texas style. It's actually
No one's saying that.
No. But a lot of people do. I'm not saying you're doing that, but a lot of people do this on this topic. But it's actually really simple. I think a lot of people are moving away from integration, and that's the real problem. There's this idea that culture is completely untouchable, and the problem with that is it blocks up mobility. And when you don't create like cultural ghettos where people are part of a culture, they're safe in that culture and they get certain rights. Rights are reassigned to cultures. That's how we're being treating culture lately. And the problem with this is you just don't have that upward mobility. You don't have that ability to move between markets because you're trapped within the markets available to your culture. And if we fix that, the border crisis would fix itself. Because what would happen is
I disagree.
If someone couldn't integrate, people would look at it as from the point of view of someone coming across the border, can they integrate or not? And if they're not trying to follow the laws, if they're not trying to follow the rules, if they're just coming over because they want to, they wouldn't really be trying to integrate. So that would become the problem, their lack of enthusiasm for integration,
right,
rather than the lack.
I agree, because it's like...
I mean, no one really argues. I've had this conversation, like pieces of this conversation with people, and no one ever argues against integration because that's crazy, right? Everyone's pro integration.
Right.
But what people don't realize is the stance that they're taking is actually kind of anti-integration.
But I think what the average Joe is pissed about is the lack of integration.
Yeah, I think so. The country's pretty integrated. I was surprised when I went cross country, and it's getting. But it seems like looking at New York, I saw New York getting more integrated over the decades, and the past decade it stopped.
I make the argument that Long Island is one of the most segregated communities in the country.
It was, and it's getting better. So I would actually, specifically Long Island, the past decade or two has gotten a lot better. When I was a kid, it was much more segregated. So every decade, it seems to get more integrated, and I'm happy with it. It's actually a weird exception. New York City itself is still was becoming more integrated, and actually it stopped, and now it's becoming levels of segregation seem to be drawn. Nobody's moving neighborhoods, right?
But let me, the audience, they're going to say, Ariella, why do you say that Long Island's one of the most segregated parts of the country?
Why do you?
And I think it's really important is it's property taxes. And
oh, you think it's a wealth segregation? Okay, interesting.
No, but it's also it's socioeconomical segregation is. We have some of the highest tax rates in the country on Long Island.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we do absolutely.
I mean,
for everyone, no one. So, in case you're not familiar with Long Island, the tax rates are through the roof, and one of the social problems it creates is that older people have to move away when they retire. They can't stay here, and that actually creates a social problem in neighborhoods because it actually makes neighborhoods less safe because the only people who live in the neighborhoods are the people who are working age, because once you're past working age, you can't stay there. And this is one of the things I love about living in New York City. That's one of the good things about the integration in New York City is that because the tax rates are much lower.
Yeah, okay, so
it's actually safer.
No, but your tax rates are lower, but just to buy.
Yeah, it comes out of income.
Your houses are more expensive.
Yes, a lot more. Well, I think that's why. I think that's the market actually telling us something.
Right, so
these houses are better value because you have a better neighborhood.
But it's wait.
Like looking at Great Neck compared to Little Neck. I live in Little Neck. Looking at those two towns compared to each other. But it's not just that. Any place where you have two towns on either side of the border.
So Little Neck and Great Neck are next to each other. But I think the average you could arguably say that the average tax rate for a house in Great Neck is what, 15,000?
Yeah, that's
easy,
fair.
Easy, 15 to $40,000.
Right, and that's how much some people's houses are worth in some parts of the country. So it's completely bonkers to even hear that.
I know. It's like, so if you hear this show and say, even
incomes are also proportionally higher. So people.
I don't think that much more proportionally high now.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think they're keeping up. So if
they're not keeping up. No.
Yeah. If you see the housing price is doing this and income's doing this, so the housing price is getting ahead of it, but. Your income's still up here compared to most people what's down here.
So in real estate, is when you say the way it works when you buy a house is your house price is governed by what you could afford, monthly payments. It's like when you buy a car, you don't ask, you don't care, you don't know, you don't remember how much you paid for your car, but you ask everyone your monthly payment is. They'll tell you. It's like, do you remember how much did I pay $50,000 for a car or $60,000? No, my payment is $759 a month, or whatever it is.
Right.
That's how you buy your car. Basically, it's like, what's your monthly payment?
Right.
And that's
actually, I bought a car for the first time in my life, the only time in my life. I bought a motorcycle once and I bought a car once with cash, and the dealer didn't know what to do with me. They literally had to call in the manager because they didn't know how to sell a car without a loan. So yeah, that is completely true. Everyone is. It's
the same thing when you buy a house. So when you buy a house, so let's say you buy a $500,000, a starter house should not have to cost $600,000. And then you're paying $12,000, $15,000.
Well, inherently, there's a law that says that. So, the conventional mortgage stops at $430,000. So, there's a legal basis for what you're saying.
But
you literally can't buy a house with a conventional mortgage. Well, it's impossible.
No, or you have to.
You have to get a jumbo.
A shitload of money down.
Yeah, or a lot. Yeah, you have to put hundreds of thousands of dollars down, which is very difficult when people are living hand to mouth and paycheck to paycheck, and they, most people can't. I think the latest number was that $500 disruption is too much for most people. Right. How are you supposed to save $100,000 if you can't afford $500?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It probably is that segregation probably does come from the financial. And I wouldn't be surprised if you could take the conspiracy theory view of it. I think the further you go back in time, that it was a prejudiced kind of conspiracy theory view, but I think now it's just an economic anti-middle class tyranny that's just evolved from the system that we've evolved into. And I mean, I could say it's a conspiracy theory, but I think it's like just nobody's at the wheel.
No one's at the wheel.
Nobody's like really thinking about. No one had the discussion we had just had because they'll get a minute into it and they'll start screaming at each other. And that's a huge mistake because there's real suffering because of it.
Talking about, I don't think, and today also talking about. People can't intellectually have conversations anymore because everything is so demagogue. I say demo. I can't even say that word.
Demagogue, yeah.
Demagogue.
Yeah.
It's such a demagogue now.
Yeah.
Is you can't. There's the.
Well, you have to be willing. The key is right. So we bounce back and forth between your premises and my premises. We've talked about some things in your premises and talked about some things. You have to be able to accept the other person's premise temporarily. You can't get mad when somebody gives you a new premise, not because they may be wrong.
Right.
But if you at least let them build their case with their facts, then you can say, okay, so here's the problem with that. And then you can say, here's my case and here's my facts. And you can compare the two. And it gives you a better idea when you see the whole picture. First of all, of what their intention is, right? Because there's a lot of accusations of bad intentions going around, right? You see that all day. You're prejudiced, And that's part of this is part of what I was talking about with the women in tech and like the on the one hand, you want to stop prejudice. On the other hand, everyone's terrified of a bad environment where everyone's just fighting all the time because no work's going to get done if that's happening. So I think that if I could like magically make a course appear in education to try to like improve our civics so that we could, because the technocracy is never going to get fixed without improving civics.
You have to teach civics before you can improve it.
Right. That's it. So I would teach I would have an ethics and civics class.
We don't teach civics anymore.
And part of that also would be debate because you have to be able to understand that sometimes you got to let a person get to their point and then you tear them down. You don't attack them immediately.
I was at let's just say
that's a talking point world.
No, I was at I could say I was at a.
Is this uncomfortable for you guys?
No, I was at a Jewish conference.
I don't have the audience in my head anymore because I think we're definitely in new territory here. So they're smiling, so it must not be that
I was at a Jewish convention, and I was playing devil like you would do, and I brought up counter argument points.
Good.
And holy cow, I thought I was going to be staked or something. I mean, I got called names and they're intolerant.
Why do you think that happened? Why were they so intolerant? Were they just scared? Was it fear?
No, I think it's just.
Or was it just?
I think the regressives just have very intolerant.
Yeah. Okay.
Just extremely. I think they look at on campuses today.
See, I don't want to call them names because I want to give them room to grow out of it. That's why I'm afraid of. I understand who you're talking about. You're talking about people who have a knee-jerk reaction,
right?
And and in my experience, most people who have a knee-jerk reaction get some of their opinions from other people, and they haven't really, they didn't form them themselves. They didn't go through the logical steps. Doesn't mean they're wrong. They could be right. But the thing is,
but it's like we would not be able to have this conversation on a college campus today.
Right.
Oh my God, we would be. If we were to announce something like this on any most college
because they think culture is immutable. They think it's the most sacrosanct thing in the world, and it's like cultures are constantly changing.
Exactly.
The whole thing that's made America stronger, I think, is that we have our own cultures, right? And that's fine. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have their own cultures, but also we have a common culture,
right?
And it's constantly changing, and people add or subtract things from that culture,
correct.
And that makes the whole, and there's a common culture for New York, and there's a common culture for the United States.
Yes.
And those things, and you don't have to necessarily draw those borders so succinctly, but those cultures are what make us stronger and what would give us a better system. And there's something to this. Even if you're talking about like software, you have an environment where people feel comfortable to be creative. They're going to be more creative, and part of that is that culture, and part of that culture is whatever the accumulation of what everyone brings to the table.
But I would argue the culture today is not allowing you to be creative.
Right.
How many comedians?
Unless you're crazy like me, or a comedian, right? Comedians seem to be able to break through it.
No, I disagree. Now I think comedians won't even go on college campuses today.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't heard that complaint, but maybe you know
What's
something.
this, Jerry Seinfeld, right, Steve? He won't go on.
I'll go look it up.
Yeah, okay, cool.
There's Jerry, he won't.
That's a shame. You know, if you can't even tell jokes at a college anymore,
I mean-
yeah, that's not healthy.
So-
That's not learning.
No, it's not. It's like
Because learning requires, you know,
The free-
letting someone build a platform and then, you know, you tear it down brick by brick.
The free-
It takes time. It's not easy, granted.
but the free and open exchange of ideas, I think, is basically dead or dying. It is dying. It's not
All right,
dead.
I got it up here.
Okay.
The article.
Let me move this over. The article is titled Jerry Seinfeld, college students don't know what the hell they're talking about. In this article, it's quoted, I hear it all the time. I don't play colleges, but I hear a lot of people tell me, don't go near colleges, they're so PC.
Wow, that's a little scary.
So,
Yeah.
And then it says, Seinfeld says teens and college-age kids don't understand what it means to throw around the certainly politically correct terms. They just don't know, they just want to use these words, that's racist, that's sexist, that's prejudiced, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right. Right. Well, of course, everything, I prefer to use the word prejudice because I think the same rules apply for prejudice. Looking for the common case of prejudice is how you solve prejudice. You don't hyper focus in on racism or hyper focus in on anti-Semitism.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they have different attributes
Right,
than
they
each
do.
other. But at the core, they're roughly the same. It's about ignorance and hate.
Yes, it's about
and
ignorance.
and what's ignorance? It's not giving other people a chance to express their ideas. You know, so.
but that's when you can't express ideas, you will have ignorance and you will have hatred.
I wonder if I'm going to be able to get a negative YouTube hit on this. Like,
Oh my God!
I have negative 30 viewers. How did that happen?
How many third rails did we touch? We touched more third
Oh,
rails.
that was great. But see, like, that wasn't so bad. I even played devil's advocate. I even defended socialism,
Yeah.
and it wasn't.
Which is a failure.
We didn't kill each other.
Well, why
But am I dead? Do you hate me because I
No.
did that?
No.
So it's inherently ridiculous to be mad at people because they defend a position they may not even believe in. They just don't think the arguments are being carried out fairly.
But if you go back to the 70s, or even the early 80s or the 60s, you had congressmen or senators, and they might have different opinions. Like you might be more socialist, or one might be more market-based. But at the end of the day, they were still friends, and they were able to, enjoy each other's company. Today, there's such pure hatred, I think, that they can't. It is such a divide.
But I think it's knee-jerk reactions, and they turn into hatred after they go unchallenged for a while. It starts off as, and eventually they just completely stop listening to anyone else. And some of it is definitely media-driven, but some of it isn't. Some of it is also just people not knowing that other people's opinions
might be right, or
might be right. And you could be better off for it. The sum is greater than the parts.
But I do see America as America was in the 1850s. I think we're at that stage right now.
Wow. Okay.
Before the
So one of the things I have casually tried to bring it up. But,
bring it up.
So, but it's another technocracy thing.
Okay, let's go.
Guns. And specifically 3D printed guns, they are taking off like wildfire. There are hundreds of plans online right now of 3D guns, and every day there's another one.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
And the problem is, the reason I don't think that there's going to be a United States 3.0, there might be, in which case it would be a civil war, and I don't think the government's necessarily going to win because there's a lot of work to restricting guns.
But I'm going to tell you something right now. A New York mother will not allow or will not want her son or daughter to die. Will send her son or daughter off to have another.
Their conviction isn't strong enough to die for their cause.
Why? They're going to say, if another part of the federation, because America will be a bunch of federations, if that federation wants to be more constitutional, a mother from a federation that's more socialism will not. She's going to say, why would I I would not allow my daughter or son to die to bring that federation.
Well, let's not
let them leave the union.
That's a decent point. But let's not skip any steps. So one of the things that I think about the United States, and I think that the reason that the Second Amendment was written, and I think that the reason
it's to protect from
a lot of
tyranny.
people are like, oh, it's hunting, it's
No, it's not.
self-protection, it's
No.
to protect you from government
Yes,
tyranny.
it's tyranny.
But more specifically, and it's a really great computer analogy, the Second Amendment is safe mode. When your computer crashes and you need to get it back into, when your government has gone completely awry,
Right.
and you're trying to retake it and establish populist control, where it has been taken over
Right.
by an oligarchy of some description, and it's just not representing the people anymore. Now, is that situation theoretically winnable? That's a whole other argument. Nukes versus stealth bombers
No,
versus
but-
guys with handguns.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You brought it up. I didn't.
Yeah.
So how?
Sorry, I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable with that.
About what?
Bring that up.
No. So let's talk about irregular warfare.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like Iraq or Afghanistan.
You wet my whistle.
You should have a few guys with an AK, and how many troops does that bog down? You bog down a company.
Agreed.
You can't control. How many square kilometers can you control?
Have you
You'll
ever
lose.
seen Jericho? Yeah, I understand your point.
I mean-
Have you seen the show Jericho?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So what happens in Jericho? So if you haven't seen Jericho, minor spoiler. At some point, Texas gets involved,
Right.
and there's kind of like a mini civil war, and Texas gets involved, and they're not on either side. They kept all their Air Force equipment, and they're like, okay, we're our own Air Force, we're doing our own thing, and we're not listening. So that is entirely possible too.
So-
military may not necessarily go on one side or the other. It probably will be split.
It would be split. I mean, that's why there'd be American.
So it wouldn't even necessarily be asymmetric, but
But saying is you can't. But why would one federation send their sons and daughters to die to keep another federation? And there'd still be America 3.0.
Right.
There'd still be UCC codes. There'd still be interstate commerce.
It would work at first, right? Because the propaganda would be strong, the misconceptions would be strong. But as time went on and the cost started to pile up, people would go, "This isn't what I thought it was."
But you know what?
Stress has a way of displaying reality.
But if the states want big government, then they're going to have to support the cost. States that want less government, intrusive government,
Yeah, I think people-
they'll fare better economically.
So actually, I have a prediction. So not outside of the United States. Civil war in the United States is absolutely terrifying, and I hope it would never come to that. But that's probably not where it's going to break out. There's a lot of tyranny in Europe.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of laws. I mean, France is. I mean, you may not necessarily see it on the news, but it's undeniable. I mean, the Notre Dame burned down. The place is. The place is a madhouse.
Right.
Not every day, not every street, but there's definitely madness going on, and there's been revolutions fought and won with less fervor than there is already over there.
Right.
Add 3D guns into this world, 3D printed guns into this world. It doesn't matter what France's gun laws are. There's going to be more and more guns in the street every day.
Right.
It may be small right now, but it's not going to stay small for long.
But
they're going to either have to shut the internet down, which will destroy them commerce-wise.
You can't shut down the internet.
Right.
But I mean-
you can't. I agree.
But we'll talk about Russia.
They probably want to do a Great Firewall of China kind of thing.
Or isn't Russia trying to build its own internet? And
Right. I mean, people are kind of like laughing, like they remember that original plastic gun that Defense Distributed built, where it was like just a piece of plastic. It fired one shot. The nail, the hammer was a nail. That's not how it is at all. People are putting complete lowers for AKs.
I haven't seen.
And
I haven't seen that stuff so advanced yet.
Tech 9s and stuff like that. They could just build them. It's out there. If you look, it's out there. And then remember, they only have to get it right once. And once they put that plan out and 10,000 people download it, it's never going away.
But the printers today, you need
specific printers. It isn't just any printer.
No, you cannot go to Micro Center or CDW and buy those type of printers.
No, you can. You can.
And you need, so maybe in 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
maybe in 10, maybe.
We're there now. We're there now.
No, I'm thinking.
It's not any old. You can't just do this with any old nylon and any old 3D printer. But there are commonly commodity available printers that will do this stuff.
But it's still,
I'm seeing them. They're putting the videos up.
Yes, but it's still too advanced. It's like saying, well.
I mean, I can't test it because I'm in New York. They'll come and kill me.
Right.
You know.
But it's like saying, it's like.
If I was in Texas, yeehaw! Open source.
but those type of printers will be out in maybe 10 years, where you can go to Micro Center and then.
Well, in 10 years, everyone will have them. But what I'm saying is, that people are making plans for existing printers now that you can print lowers, ghost guns. I mean, they're real.
But you need the right printer, and those printers.
And you need to know what you're doing, right? And you're definitely a technocrat if you can print a gun that actually works.
Today you have to be. But in 10
but there's
years,
still a million technocrats across the world at least,
But no, but
and I'm sure there's 5,000, 10,000 in France, I'm telling you, I'm seeing that. All right, maybe I'm wrong. It's a projection.
I think you're pushing the technology.
I think within a year or two, we're going to start seeing meaningful accounts of 3D printed guns in revolutionary type actions. They may not be winning revolutions, but there will be revolutions.
5 years. No, you do.
2.
5.
2.
5.
I might even be underestimating it.
5.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, good. You're good with predictions, so I could be wrong. I'm up against a juggernaut here, so. Let's see. All right, well, let's get away from the politics. I'm sure
Yeah.
we've lost most of our viewers who don't want to hear about the politics.
No more. Let's talk about music. Want to talk about music?
Yeah,
What was
well,
that
sure.
called?
Okay.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, you said you're into music? You wanted to bring up music?
I don't know. It's up to
Are you playing an instrument or?
So I just started getting into music because I do everything backwards. In January, I picked up an Ibanez really sweet, nice guitar, electric guitar.
Excellent.
I picked up a Beauty.
Are you trying to learn how to sight read, or are you just playing by ear?
Well, I started to take lessons. I signed up with music, something on, Music Tricks or something on the internet to learn how to play. And then I picked up a bass, a really nice bass, another Ibanez bass, 5-string, gorgeous. And then 2 weeks ago, I picked up a really beautiful Taylor acoustic Hawaiian wood Kua. Is that Kua? Yeah, Kua. K-O-A.
I don't know what that is.
Guitar.
Okay.
So now I started taking lessons and talking about
What kind of music do you like? What are you playing?
Wait. So talk about Technocrats technology is. I am teaching teaching technology for music lessons.
Oh, okay.
So
That's awesome. Nice trade.
Yes, nice trade.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah. So your knowledge is a currency.
Right, it is. So
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Your credibility is a convertible currency.
So I like.
And their credibility is too, because
Right.
they know music and they're teaching you.
Exactly. So we have a nice thing we're working.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of like when I look at the Star Trek world. I kind of see when they're like, a lot of people are like, oh, there's no currency, and I think that's impossible. But I think in the future there may be near instant currency conversions for non-coinage currencies, where I have the skills in this, I have the skills in that, and I think that's where we're headed more, where people can bring their skills to the table and offer time with a particular skill set at whatever conversion rate.
Well, the Federation provided everything for you, so it's a form of socialism.
No, I think that's so.
And I think that's what I think.
A lot of people have projected that on. I'm talking. So I just consider Star Trek and Next Generation canon. I'm not looking at the other stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of people would be mad if I was, but they didn't get into too much detail as exactly how it worked.
Right.
They just said they don't have currency, but I don't think I think what they were talking about is they don't have coinage.
Right.
They don't have
like Ferengis, like the Ferengis had the coinage.
Right, yeah. But I think that I think they do have currencies. In fact, I mean, anytime if you have a meritocracy, everything where people are interacting is coinage. Is currency, not coinage.
Well,
it's not currency.
My currency is my knowledge of security or networks or things like that. That's my currency.
Right. So I could totally see a world where people were trading skills,
Right.
and your reputation becomes almost like a bank account.
Right. Sure. I mean, I have a strong sense of right and wrong, so that's a currency.
Right, and we were talking about forgiveness before, right? When someone makes a minor indiscretion, right? They spend 5 minutes too long on break or 10 minutes too long, and you know it now because there's security cameras everywhere, your RFID tags in the bottling plant pick up where they're walking. And the key is, instead of every minor indiscretion becoming a capital case, just letting it go. Like when people do minor things, not escalating at every possible opportunity, de-escalating as a normal.
So minor indiscretions. What about red light cameras?
Right.
So when you
what about red light cameras?
So you get a ticket. So instead of
nice segue.
Oh, thank you. so you'll get a ticket. So if you stop, but if you only instead of stop, I don't know, what's it, like 5 seconds, but if you stop for 3 seconds, that's minor. Mm-hmm. You get a ticket, $100 ticket.
Doesn't care if it's a microsecond, as long as you're still moving when that second shot goes off.
So
it's a red light camera ticket.
So you get a ticket.
Yeah.
So. And who makes that? That's the counties making that in the state.
They're making a lot of money off of those, yeah.
And
All the red light cameras are making tons of money.
So, and that's from what?
It's a tax.
It's a tax on the poor. I have to argue it's a tax on the poor, because
or at least the poor driving skills. But yeah, you're probably right.
No,
yeah.
It's a tax on the poor.
Also, if you have a crappier car, it's going to have worse braking distance. You're more likely to break the rule.
No, I think it's tax on the poor because they can't afford.
Generally speaking, that's true. The older and junkier the car is, the worse the braking distance. But yeah, so you have to drive slower in order to be able to be equal to the people around you.
But it's like, oh, you're so far over that white line or whatever, $120 ticket. Mm-hmm. But I have on good authority that the politician. There's white lists.
What, you show some insider info? There's white lists?
There's white lists. So
what?
So if you're on the board in the county.
Is this in New York that this is happening? There's white lists of allowed red light runners? I mean, there must be, right, for ambulances. There's a practical use for that.
No, we're going to talk about that. But so Xerox will come into the county and they say is a red light camera in this thing has to generate so much money. So if there isn't that much, if it doesn't meet its quota, the county gets fined.
Oh, okay.
But if you're on the board and say, okay, I have it on good knowledge.
How does that work, though? I mean, if people just stop, because usually, all right, let me tell you how it works for me, and you can tell me if this seems accurate to you. You're driving along. You don't realize you did it. You get a notice in the mail that you owe them $50 or $100.
No, it's $120 or whatever.
Yeah, $120. You ran a red light. Now you realize there's a camera on that light. Now you never run that camera light. You never go through a yellow again in that intersection, and you don't get any more tickets.
Well, no, but I'm saying.
So how does that?
But I'm talking about the white list. Is like family members or families that are on the board that signed those contracts.
So they whitelist the people who greenlight the red light cameras.
They don't get the tickets.
That sucks.
Because it reads the license plate.
That's crazy. That's totally got to be a kickback. That's illegal.
So I put it out there. So anonymous, if you want, that's a nice hack for you.
Interesting.
So Xerox or in the counties or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. Where did you find out about this?
So for those people, so if you want to do a nice hack and I'm just putting
the knowing eyebrow.
Just putting it out there.
Your source is the knowing eyebrow. That's their new name.
Put it out there. Put those lists out. Get those. lists.
Good. You know what? I'm all for that. That's terrible.
And those bank accounts.
I can't believe they would get
some of those.
I mean, I kind of knew it was happening just because it seemed logical, but at the same time, damn, it sucks to hear it. Wow. So. How would that kind of that underworld? How do you know anything about it, or you ever dabble in the gray hat space? I mean, you kind of have to in our field because otherwise you don't know how things work, right? Like every time an exploit comes out, they come out with an explanation of what was broken, right. And
So it's funny. I'm studying for my ethical hacking, which I think you know.
Ethical hacking?
Yeah, I know.
Who's ethics?
My ethics.
Your ethics.
My ethics.
Okay,
My ethics.
okay.
So I'm working on that, and I was actually at a.
See what happens when you don't teach people ethics in school? Ethical hacking.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Well, I think hacking can be very ethical. I'm not anti.
No.
I'm not anti-hacking. I mean, my first guest was a hacker,
Right,
right? So, you know, it depends on what you do with it
So-
and how you approach it.
No, and I was at a let's say a technology event, and we had labs, and part of the security labs could be either the attacker or defender, which was a quite interesting event. Also is, you know, I brought up in the past, I believe, in the free expression of ideas, and I'll admit to it, I don't care. I run onion servers on 6 continents.
Really?
Yep, I run onion servers on
So,
6.
so why don't you explain what onion servers are in case someone doesn't understand?
So I spend my own money, and so if you're let's say if you're in China and you want to get
Perfect case. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
So if you want to have free internet to the free access to the internet, and not be censored by the government, is I provide a service. And,
Yeah, if you don't know about the Great Firewall of China, look it up.
that you'll be able to get out,
Right.
And also would have reporters have anonymous browsing. So if you're doing a story in a country that has extreme censorship, you could get out and you could do your story.
Right. Yeah, that's really great, and actually I appreciate that you're doing that. And like, let's say you were mad at me for appreciating that you're doing that, and you're the audience. You're like, wow, Matt just crossed the line. You know, a good example is GitHub is heavily censored in China. I don't even know if they can get to it. I think they might just have a work-alike.
Right. So,
but because what was happening is that the major press publications like the New York Times realized that that people weren't allowed to see the Times in China, so they started publishing a copy of the Times on GitHub, because GitHub was one of the holes in the Great Firewall of China. So I'm all for that. All that, everything that GitHub did and the New York Times did there was ethical. So I mean, how could I be against that?
So I believe that I don't believe, I despise censorship.
Yeah, me too. I really think it's beneath me.
So people complain.
I can be wrong. I can be wrong about things, but you know,
what I'm trying to say is
but people shouldn't censor. You know, people shouldn't censor me.
I put my
when I'm
money
wrong.
where my mouth is. So
Right.
I set up servers on 6 different continents.
Wow.
And all that.
Wow, that's really
And I spend my own money supporting it.
So what's the risk with that? Just that you wasted your money, or that
I don't think there's any. The risk is maybe.
the risk is not doing it, right?
The risk is not doing it, and then the risk is maybe I won't get a job with a certain company. But if that company that won't hire me, or says because I support the free exchange of ideas, maybe I shouldn't work for them.
Yeah, yeah. I think
we cannot afford to do that.
that's a pretty hard line, but I can respect that. I think that's important. And I'm very much anti-censorship. I'm very bothered by what's happening in social media right now. You know, you get shadow banning, which is of course harder to see, but then you have blatant censorship, and that's happening more and more. They're getting bolder,
Right.
And it's getting a little scary because I mean, like, I don't agree with the things that a lot of the censored people say, but you know, the things that people are getting censored for are becoming more and more reasonable, and it's a little scary because it's like, okay, well, what happens when you just have differing opinions? Are you going to censor them?
Yes,
The slippery slope is slipping.
It is slipping.
There is slippage.
And look at, what is it? There were a bunch of articles that Chase Manhattan Bank is closing bank accounts of people that are on the right.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's crazy.
so.
Yeah. And I mean, and the funny thing is, so like I've never been. So if you don't know this about me, I actually, some people got mad at me when I predicted Trump publicly, very publicly, months and months before he won. I said he's going to win. And I had a lot of logical reasons why. I didn't endorse him, but I did predict.
No, I predicted he was going to win. People thought when I predicted that, I was called a racist. I was called so many different names. You have no idea.
Which makes no sense. It's a prediction. How could you?
I'm a racist because I predicted.
Maybe they could call the people that you were predicting were going to vote for him racist. I'm not saying that's right, but at least it makes more sense. But it's completely it would be completely nonsensical to say you were a racist because you were predicting what was going to happen. It's like a forecast. That'd be like you're racist because you predict the rain.
Because it goes back to the circle of the intolerance that has developed.
They don't even know what the word means. Sorry.
But the intolerance is...
All right. Yeah, no, I felt it too. I got it too. People were smart enough to not take me on directly on it, but yeah, I mean, there was some snubbing.
Yeah.
Nobody, I'm a loudmouth, me, so.
And we were together that night when it happened.
Yeah.
We were at a YLOG meeting that night.
Yeah, that's right.
Harbor Labs.
Yeah, people were mad. They were really mad, and they were mad at me. And I'm like, why are you mad at me, man? I warned you.
Yeah.
I was trying to tell you what to do to avoid this, and you just got mad at me instead, and now you lost, and now you should be mad at yourself, not me.
and they're still deranged, and they still have such derangement of anger. And
Right. And that's one of the, this is, I think that that's going to change this election, and I'm not sure. Right now, I'm a little nervous about the fact that Biden's in the lead, but it's early, and usually the guys who are in the lead early in the primary, because I think Biden will lose because he's not a populist.
Biden has no chance.
Yeah, but
no chance.
I don't want to get into straight up politics and be talking about politicians.
But let's talk about, because we talked about the election night. We were together that night.
We could, but I'd rather not.
I want to talk about electronic voting. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading white papers about it. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, and what it was just like, what were they proposing? It was like, it was going to be a nightmare. It's like,
right.
My God. It's like, are you like serious?
Well, so this is not just voting. Custody is a huge problem. Voting is a specialized case of custody, of who's in charge of what information when, and how do you know it's true.
But how many companies are actually in charge of these voting machines now, and what about the backdoor vulnerabilities, which I hear about through the grapevine, through the security community? I hear things about these voting machines that just make me cringe.
Right. So one of the things that's wrong with the voting machines. Now I've had arguments with people about this back and forth, and but there's a lot of things wrong. But for me, the clincher is Diebold. Diebold isn't, because a lot of people are like, you're just you're making up, you're fabricating craziness. Diebold's a heavily conservative company, right? They make ATMs before they made voting machines, and eventually they got into the ATM business, and they got into the voting machine business. And so I like to use that as an example because I find that the conservatives get less mad at me when I pick on them. So, and Diebold has been getting into voting machines the problem with voting machines is there's no receipt.
Right.
There's no way, and of course now what people will argue that, okay, well, if you have a receipt, that's a way that someone can leverage, force you to show them your receipt to show you voted a certain way, and that people can either use hard power or soft power to force people to vote a certain way.
No, wait. So we just recently had the election a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So when you go to the ballot, they put a number on your ballot, like 198 or whatever, mm-hmm. and then they take that to your name. Mm-hmm. On the book when you sign in, mm-hmm. 198.
Right. They have a key. It's basically.
So they know, and they have that sheet.
Right.
So they could go back to use that sheet.
Oh, you're talking about the actual election workers on site. Yeah.
So they can see.
Well, theoretically, they're impartial.
No, but they. So where do those ballots go? They go into that machine.
Right.
So they go there and say, "Oh, look, Ariella." They go to the book. I signed in. Was 198. Mm-hmm. They pull the ballot at 198, and they say exactly know who I voted for.
So I've seen a lot of proposals. The one I think I like why don't you tell me what your favorite voting machine design is?
It was the simple one. Remember when we were
the
big machine,
the hanging Chad mobile? Yeah.
No.
No. Because the hanging Chads were very small in number.
Wait. I'm talking about my favorite voting machine is the ones. Remember, they're like that the curtains, you go in and you
Right.
push the levers
The
up
old
and down.
yeah, that's what I'm
and
talking
then
about.
the old mechanical ones, and you pull.
The old school mechanical ones, yeah, and I've heard arguments from a mutual friend that they were also subject to corruption. But the problem is, the thing that was good about them is at least the custody chain was clear.
And
it was also a crowd of custody. So even if you managed to get to one guy, he was only in charge of 1 or 10 machines
but
instead of the entire vote.
Right, but you have auditors at those precincts, and from party A and party B, they'll check off, okay, that machine is 000, I'll check off, and the other party person will check off, okay, at the end of the night, we'll both check off and say, okay, this machine had 2,000 votes, that person will check it off, I'll check it off, and we know.
Right. Yeah, so I completely, and so this is what I was talking about custody. The old school method of custody is expensive, it's time consuming, but it also minimizes losses, and the losses are predictable, right? So, like, you might have a 1% error rate, but that's 1%, you know that, right?
But it's
the electronic one, it could be a catastrophic error rate, and you wouldn't even know. How would you know? Because the code's only audited by a handful of people, most of which usually work for the company that builds the machine.
And first of all, what about those back doors, like USB sticks, or you could remote SSH into those machines?
So I think that there's nothing wrong with making progress into an electronic voting space, but here's the design that I've seen that I like the best. So it combines the mechanical aspects and the crowd, the crowd of machine auditors, those aspects of the old system into an electronic voting. And it's very simple. It's just a window, and when you vote in the machine, and it will print out the results of your vote in a log on a piece of paper behind a piece of glass, so you can't take it out. No one can come in. The usual electioneering oversight in the election site is there. So if you have the problem is whenever you carry something out of there, even if it's an encrypted key, someone can strong arm you into showing them what it is, right? Like if you go to a website and check it at home. But in the window, first you'll have the screen.
I think the days of strong arming are over.
I think so too, because of the ubiquitous camera solution. But I don't say there's a problem. I say there's a solution. But there's still the possibility. So I'm willing to entertain it. And I think there's actually a solution where it becomes a non-issue, which is that you vote on. This is the machine. Oops, that way, yeah. You vote on the machine, right? And you go check, 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 and then you pull the lever, right?
Okay.
And then in the window on a paper receipt.
Coins come down?
We're rich with knowledge, and then you see check, check, check in the window, and it verifies who you voted for, and this paper tape that's in there is auditable, so that has to match. So it gives you a chance to see what your votes were and confirm the vote, and then that way no one's in the voting booth with you, so only you see that. So you can say, okay, it did vote the way I think it did.
Okay.
I didn't check boxes, and then there was that old joke app where you would go to check the box and the box would move. Which is actually relatively trivial to do if you know code.
Right.
You know that. So, by the way, do you do any programming languages?
So, let's see, I did BASIC, I did some C, and I used to love messing with my C instructor, say, where's the go-to statement? That joke gets old.
Yeah. Everybody's had the go-to euphoria. I'm making so much code.
No. In C there's no go-to.
Right.
It's function returns and stuff.
Right.
I do Bash. I did some TLC. When I did Oracle work, I was an Oracle DBA master. I did a ton of Java because Oracle told us that we were going to go with PL SQL and to write everything in Oracle, write everything in Java. So I became really good at Java. I haven't touched Java in God knows how long.
So what was your favorite? What's your favorite language out of all of them?
I want to learn Python. That's my next thing, which I have been meaning to do for the longest time.
Right, it is amazing.
It is.
You get, there's always a learning curve, right? But once you get past that initial hump, it's just so fast to pick up new concepts, and most of the libraries just work the way you expect them to. It's really delightful.
Because I use because of the Cisco switches and routers, there's a lot of TLC in there. So I do some of that, but the new Nexus switches having a lot of Python and putting Python into a lot of the base iOSs. I don't mean that's the wrong term. In the iOSs, let me just say that.
Okay.
Because when you say the word base in Cisco, it can mean a whole entire different.
Right. I understand. There'll be Python available somewhere in the iOS in most machines.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
all machines, or just most?
I think all the news. Like, I know all the Nexus gear and all that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, Nexus and Catalyst, the new Catalyst
Right.
systems.
So, so what? I'm sorry,
I
I
like
didn't mean to
that.
change
I
topics.
like that.
Do you like this? Can you think of something better or something that's broken with this system?
See, I was thinking, you get a printout of a hash key and then.
See, I like that too, but it doesn't. Sometimes with impropriety, it doesn't necessarily matter whether the impropriety is actually happening. The mere accusation can do the damage. So this way, there's no possibility of an accusation.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's still the possibility of voter fraud. You can still have somebody come in and take the tape, but I would say that the municipality should hold on to this. So if they get a vote, and maybe even run it through a machine.
So do you want to put like an ID number, like so if you?
Well, it would be plain. It would have to be plain English so that a person could read it and verify that it was what they thought they saw on the screen when they checked the boxes. And if there was a problem, maybe they could go back and do a redo or something like that.
So
and they'd have a redo ticket, and then redo it again. But hopefully, I wouldn't.
So you definitely opposed to the idea when you ring the doorbell and you find an extra 5,000-6,000 votes in the shoebox?
Yeah.
Well,
it depends. Are they votes for me?
No, for me.
Yeah, or they vote for the singularity, because I, for one, welcome the singularity and don't want it to be confused and to think that I am not anticipating its glory.
Explain to the audience.
I think they know what the singularity is. The great artificial intelligence, the Skynet in the sky, so to speak.
All
right, so you like this? You
I like it.
You don't see any flaws with that?
You know what? If I
I
would invest in it.
Come on again sometime and think about it, and if you come back and say, I know what's wrong with that.
I think about it. I like that so far.
I think that Tulsi Gabbard is currently supporting this.
I like that.
Something like this.
I like that.
Like openly saying this is the way to fix it, and this should be the standard, and you have to prove that this is broken or worse than whatever.
But
you want to do something else.
But then, okay, so let's talk about then how we can do voter fraud.
Well, because you'd have the paper tape, so as long as you keep the physical.
Sarcasm.
Oh yeah, that's true. How would we?
Yeah, how are we going to do voter fraud?
Well, we can. I'm available. If you want to do some voter fraud for the right price. I'm kidding.
Let's
a show on the ethics of the technocracy, and then I'm going to be the voter fraud consultant.
So let's just do. Let's rile the audience.
Sure. Rile my audience. I don't mind.
Okay.
Shake them up.
Voter ID. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so think about it. I want voter ID because if I go into a federal building, I need to bring show ID. Go to almost any building in Manhattan today, you have to show some form of ID.
Yeah. Okay.
Why can't you have ID to vote?
I don't disagree.
So.
Yeah.
But there's a huge people.
It's kind of hard to be against IDs.
Oh, but why are states getting sued?
Yeah. That's a good question.
So.
Yeah, honestly, so you're gonna get a devil's advocate argument for me. Even on border wall, I can give it. I can give it on guns. I can don't want to give it on guns, but I could give it on guns. I can give it even on socialism. On voter ID, we're in the identification and custody business. That's our business model. That's if you don't trust your geek to tell you the truth, your business is screwed. Your organization is screwed.
It's like we have God.
They have the keys to the kingdom. And this is one of the things that General Alexander was warning about when Snowden took the NSA. You have to trust these guys. Whether you think you can trust them or not is another story. But if you have to have them, if you don't come up with a model where you don't need them, you must trust them.
You have to trust because it's like we have God mode. We have God mode for everything.
Right. So for me, custody is like verification of ID is like a non-issue. Right. We exist in a world where we're doing two-factor IDs and like if somebody gets hacked in their IDs, even temporarily, even for a few minutes, taken over by somebody else, it's a 5-alarm fire, and the entire department's in a meeting trying to figure out how to do damage control. So even minor indiscretions. So it's really hard to for a geek. I would love to have a geek come on and explain to me why voter ID is wrong, because I can't can't. It just doesn't sync
No.
with my understanding of
So talking about you just brought up-
precision
so you just brought up
and accuracy, both.
you just brought up two-factor authentication. Is I think we have to fix something with the SMS. Is it has to be more secure, because you could get your you go have your 4-digit ID sent to you, and I could capture that. And, you know, like when you go on online banking or whatever, they'll send you your
Right. Well, I think that the idea is that that they're pitching against time. The model is
Yeah, but
right.
do you know how-
we know nobody can crack this in 10 seconds, and that's the window.
But when the phone company through regular text messaging sends you that 4 or 6-digit ID number, it's in real time. I could capture that.
Right. Of course you could. Yeah.
So that's not. Is that really? Unless using like iMessage, but I think that has to be fixed.
So
I'm
not so
advocating-
sure that I'm not that worried about that, and the reason why is because the
you're not
credit
worried-
card companies have a huge disincentive to allowing any meaningful, to have having anything but the lowest fraud model.
Okay, but let's talk about this. Is like,
Because they eat it. They eat it whenever you lose money. Most of the time, the credit card company eats it.
But if you go sign on to a secure website, whatever, or you go sign on like some type of transaction, and they send it to you via SMS, it's not really that secure. That's what I'm pointing out.
Right.
That has to be fixed. I'm arguing that has to be fixed.
So I think that the real problem with the security there is time. That it's a very short window, and that But I agree with you. Yes, it would be better if it encrypted, maybe an encrypted site, and the SMS was a link to an encrypted site that you had to be logged
maybe
into.
they need to fix the MSS. So
SMS.
SMS.
Well, you know how SMS works, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in case you don't know, SMS is actually part of the messaging system for the actual cell calls, right? So it's not like its own it's not its own proper protocol like HTTPS or something.
Right.
It just is somebody figured out a hack to stick text messages inside of the metadata field for cell phone calls.
So basically, it's like Telnet. It's like using like Wireshark to see Telnet.
It's just a control sequence. Originally it was just a control sequence. There's no security whatsoever built into it, other than if you lose the session, you lose the session.
Oh, and then if you're using Telnet today, and if you get
I don't think anyone is. Come on.
you deserve it.
Don't even talk to them.
You deserve it.
No, don't tell them. Now it's funny. There's so few of them, it's funny now. They're using Telnet. Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way, so this is actually something I wanted to talk about, and this is kudos to Isaac, because I have to give him credit for coming up with this. This idea, I didn't actually write it on. It's not in the list, but the a lot of people don't realize that anonymity is an offensive strategy, and what I mean by that is that
Well, that goes back to a lot of the talks I give. I got invited to a lot of organizations to how to keep your anonymity and how to get it back, and not to use Gmail or Yahoo. So once you start using Gmail, and they monetize.
That's the opposite of
they monetize all that information. They know everything about
They're
it.
literally hacking every word you say.
And it's like I say, you make them work for it. Right?
So I'm talking about, like, even if you're doing something that's relatively sane and secure, like Telnet's this old protocol where you would type in a username and password in plain text over the internet to a machine or over a network to a machine, and it was replaced ubiquitously by SSH. And SSH has had several different versions and several different encryption protocols. And that's the standard. A lot of stuff, like like all the cloud stuff in the back end, you run Ansible, and sometimes Ansible will run on its own keys, and sometimes it'll run over SSH keys. It's still commonly used. So that encryption itself is very hard. But the problem with anonymity as a the reason anonymity is an offensive strategy, and I'm probably overcomplicating it, but is because if you have the session data that's rock hard and uncrackable today, maybe you can walk right through it 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So this is the risk with anonymity. Anonymity is a temporary. The reason it has to be an offensive strategy is because defensive strategies need to be sustainable. And anonymity is an offensive strategy, and it can't be obtainable. Sustainable. And because it depends on encryption, and encryption is inherently a dead man walking. at any given point, today's beautiful, perfect encryption is tomorrow's junk.
Right. So you talk about that is.
What do you think about that?
No, I agree with you, because there've been, like, say, with, for example, ransomware is some ransomware things have been cracked, and they're using like versions of that crack to crack other versions of ransomware.
Ah, okay.
And now,
also, so that anonymity strategy is applying in ransomware, and they're actually they're using.
But you talk about dead man walking is that you wait. So if you wait long enough, if you get hit by ransomware, in time, you'll be able to decrypt it. It's dead man walking. It's just a matter of time that
Right.
you could unencrypt your files.
Yeah.
And now, in fact, I think there was some students.
So that's important information. If you have information that's not time dependent and you can't afford to pay the ransom, or don't believe that they'll, or even if you paid them and they didn't unlock it, like that happens sometimes too. You may not be screwed. You may just have to wait.
Right, because
hold on to that encrypted data, because you may be able to recover it at some point.
I think there's some students doing the PhD about how to unencrypt ransomware files, and also with I think they wrote a white paper on it. With cloud computing today, you could just do clusters of and decrypt it.
So theoretically, if we ever got into a quantum computing world, it's entirely possible that encryption would no longer be possible. So I don't even know what would happen to the world at that point. It would be like chaos.
It would be like Star Wars. Didn't Star Wars have no encryption?
Oh, cool. Yes, yes, awesome. Yeah, I'll even let you get the credit for that. Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize when they watch Rogue One, and I don't even know if they did it intentionally or if it was just a happy accident, but they described a world, when they're on the planet and sorry, spoilers, you didn't watch Rogue One till now.
It took place before the first movie, so really.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, nice. Use the chronology of the movies instead of when they came out. So, they're there's a reason that they're moving data around through droids and physically carrying the data from place to place is because there's, basically the Empire is trying to destroy every copy.
Right.
And the reason why is because it's not encrypted, because encryption doesn't work in their universe. So that's why the Empire, and if you're wondering how I think that, it's because the Empire immediately knows when they beam up the Death Star plans up to the ship what they stole. Because they wouldn't know that right away, right? If it was encrypted, in today's world, in the real world, it would have been sent through a lightly encrypted session. It would at least have taken them hours to figure out what they sent, even if they had the best cracking equipment in the world, in the universe on it. But they knew right away. So it was not. They don't even bother with encryption because it doesn't work. So interesting. It would be an interesting world of swashbuckling adventures, swashbuckling space adventures. If there was no encryption,
but if we had,
in a way, we're kind of in that world. It's just this time delay until to an unknown time in the future when someone says, "Oh, there's a flaw at SHA 8." Look at that. Now we can walk right through it, and boom, we gathered all the session data. Quick, crack it! Look, they're talking about wearing pink underwear and running around and waving wands, and it must be a code.
It is a code.
Because everything that doesn't make sense is a code.
Right. Exactly.
Well, kind of.
On people in chat rooms talking, in game rooms talking, and that's code.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, language is constantly shifting, and one of the reasons that language shifts is so. I think there's something in the Old Testament about that, where there was a I forget what the story was, but there's a story where they're using a local dialect to confuse another group of people. I don't remember what it was. I'm so sorry.
The Japanese intentionally made their language as difficult as possible to learn because they didn't want foreigners to be able to learn it and understand what they're saying.
That's a perfectly good example that's not in the Bible.
We also have like Pig Latin too, like Yiddish.
Yeah.
Another kind of.
Right. So I mean, anything, I wouldn't be surprised from what I know about Gaelic if that had something to do with Gaelic too. It's kind of hard to understand, right? So yeah. So I mean, if you're close to the origin of a new dialect or even a new language, the only people who know it are the people you teach.
Well, was it?
It's a form of encryption, a really bad one, but
During World War II, we had the code talkers, the Apache.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I think that's okay. So good call on the Star Wars. Nice. So is there something else that you wanted to talk about? So I think we're doing great until we have 15 minutes left.
What time is it?
Here, let me repeat that. We have 15 minutes left.
Okay.
It is 10:45.
Bullshit.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, it's 10:45.
Is it 10:45?
I keep looking at my watch like I can't believe it either. It's 10:45.
No way.
Are you having fun?
Oh my God, I'm having.
Is there something that you're missing that you wanted to talk about? Because now's the time to start the topic. We have time for one more big topic, I think.
I talk to people from different countries and it's a cultural thing. So, in America, at least for security, Signal is pretty prevalent. The app Signal.
The app Signal. I don't know. Tell me what that is.
So it's it's endpoint to endpoint encryption, and there's no backdoors. So it gives the NSA the birdie and all that stuff, and there's like WhatsApp, which is basically end to endpoint, but there are backdoors, and. So we're talking about secure communication, and everyone was using WhatsApp. And I said, well, that's not really that secure. They said secure enough. And I said, what about Signal? Oh, no, only criminals use Signal.
That's how you know it works. That's how you know it's good.
So it's like, okay.
I laugh when I hear that. And the only criminals use Bitcoin arguments. Be like, well, that's a compliment. Yeah, okay.
So, okay, it's like, that's interesting, you know. But the perceptions of when you talk to people from different countries.
Everyone's a criminal somewhere.
Yeah, so.
I mean, even if there was a country, an imaginary country that was unbelievably free, right? That person doing something in their country would have been a criminal somewhere else if they did it there.
True.
Yeah, everyone's a criminal somewhere.
We'll talk about Mr. Robot?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about Mr. Robot.
Okay.
I like Mr. Robot.
Well, I love Mr. Robot. And in fact...
Very, very plausible. I just want to say tons of people with mental illness in the IT industry. And, that is just another case of it.
Well, I thought that, the technology... I would love to be a technical consultant on shows like that. It would be like a nice, awesome dream job. So if anyone wants to offer, I'll definitely take it.
I think Isaac said something about that, not on the show, but he said something about that in somewhere else that maybe he was a consultant.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go back and watch it again.
So,
well, I'm starting to forget what happened in the first show. We've been doing this. I can't believe I've been doing this it's already episode 10.
Wow.
Episode 10, right? Yeah, episode 10.
Episode 10.
I know what episode I'm on. Yeah, I love Mr. Robot. I think it's totally plausible to. I haven't seen anything in there that is not plausible. I love their faux Iron Mountain.
Right.
I love their Raspberry Pi in the thermostat hack.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I could definitely see with the VLANs and all that, people doing the most stupidest things with I seen it. People have done like retarded things.
Well, what would be a good? Run me through a good VLAN.
Scenarios.
Like how would you what would you use as your criteria to separate VLANs?
So voice.
Departments?
No, voice would have to be on its own VLAN.
Okay.
Your server farm would have to be on its own VLAN.
Okay.
I would take buildings. You could do departments if you want. You could do accounts.
You could do that also, right? In addition to what you're saying.
Right. So you could take like the east side of the building, west side of the building, north side of the building, put them on its own separate VLAN, put on floors, different VLANs.
Right.
This is a whole wave.
And what's the advantage of doing VLANs like that? Is it
broadcast arms, and so for non-technical people so you try to keep the broadcast down. So that's why we like a /24. So that's 254 usable hosts.
Right.
And so if you have one big huge VLAN, you have a huge broadcasting.
Right, so the network is only so here's a concept.
Also for security. So let's talk about one of my specialties is security.
Yeah, keep on.
So is when you have it's segmented. So if you don't, of course you have into VLAN routing, but basically is if you plug your laptop into like a wall outlet, and that's only on say VLAN 10, and VLAN 10 is only for data and it will give you, it's only segmented, and you're only allowed to go to certain areas and stuff, certain parts.
Right.
And you kept in the cage basically.
Right.
And that could be kinky.
So the advantage of being kept in a cage is that if somebody breaks into that cage,
Right.
they're in a cage.
Right, and they can't get out. It's
Right.
like you're being jailed.
Yeah.
So
you've turned your network into an elaborate series of man traps.
right.
Yeah, we're going to put it in physical security terms. So VLANs are man traps, essentially.
It keeps things segregated. It keeps you from, if I don't want you poking, because once you get into that port,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't use like port security, you're an idiot. But there's pros and cons of using port security. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certain places you should never use it, and certain places where I think it's good. But
Right.
if I stick my Calyx, so I take my laptop, Calyx Linux, and if you don't have your network set up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna own you within a short amount of time. You'll be my bitch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, please, the children are watching.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. So yeah. So what was it? What was it that they screwed up with the VLANs on that show? I actually don't remember. So.
Oh, they kept. So, if I remember, I think it was.
You don't need to price it exactly. Just.
No, they had the VLANs for all everything was on. For all the different remote sites
Yeah.
were on the same VLAN.
Ah, okay. So they didn't.
So once they had access
So
to
how
that-
would you set that up if you wanted to have people in similar roles but at remote sites?
Oh my God, I would have first of all, BMS, we call that building maintenance systems.
Okay.
I would have BMS stuff like that because they're very insecure, and I would have that completely separate hardware, not even on the same, I wouldn't even touch the cores, nothing like that. Completely separate physical hardware.
Okay.
I wouldn't even allow that to be on our network. I mean, it'd be separate,
okay.
it'd be its own physical separate network.
How often? Well, that's kind of a form of air gapping. How often do you go to air gapping? I mean, is that
Certain
your?
things like that, you have to air gap like that, yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you have like a bucket list of things that you think are worth air gapping? Like for me,
Security systems.
finance. Anything with money.
No, because in your server farm, you can't do that because you have cores and then you have the high-speed backbones and all that stuff.
Right, okay.
You can't do that.
Yeah. All right.
But for like certain type of things, and also like manufacturing process.
Whenever possible. Of course, that's easy. That's an easy out.
Right.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, it's fine.
What is it? Oh.
So what let's see, what else did they do on Mr. Robot? They did, so they did that thing where they overheated the batteries, right? So poor control of
Oh my God! So
appliances.
APCs, yes, the AP. So you're talking about. I was at what is it? I was in an appliance store, and they had you could get. It had internet access, it had weather access. You could browse. You could browse. Did you see that refrigerator? It was like crazy. You got weather, everything, and
Yeah,
but who's
I'm not
supposed
sure what you're talking about.
there's a refrigerator.
In the show?
No, I'm sorry. No, what I want to get back to is talking about the APCs that are
Yeah, the Internet. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they completely gotten crazy with the Internet of Things
But-
devices, and the refrigerators are one of the worst ones.
Right.
Because
But
you
what
have
I'm
the
saying-
screen in front of you in the kitchen.
Right. But so we're talking about the APCs is like patches. How often are there patches? Mm-hmm. And when you people don't think about how easy like the firmware and to buy
Right.
how hard is it to change the firmware around or find bugs in that firmware to do crazy things?
It's pretty difficult for your average user to do that,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of companies, when they start cutting corners, they start patching the things that get hacked the most often
Right.
first. But
that's
that
what-
doesn't work for advanced persistent threats.
Right.
It just works for
But we're talking about
the script kiddies.
The Internet of Things is like
Well, now
the problem.
the script governments these days.
No, but let's talk about hacking cars again. How often will they patch those cars? And how often, after a certain amount of years?
I think it's irresponsible to even release a product without either air gapping it or having a patch schedule
Right.
and an end of life
Right.
that's really long. Relevant to how long the durable good is expected to last.
But okay, go back to Mr. Robot.
Let's see, what else did they do?
The hack about getting out of prison.
Yep. Oh yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I forgot about that. They had to, and of course they used the physical force they had over Mr. Robot and to basically to extort him, and that's something that's I mean, you could literally be kidnapped. You know, we kid about it, but if you're important enough in an organization, it starts to become a possibility.
Right.
You know, and actually, this is one of the things that's really bad about biometrics. It actually encourages this behavior.
Oh.
The cheapest route forward, if you must break into a particular system, and the only way is biometrics, it's tempting to kidnap someone.
Wasn't there the story online? I hope it's not true, but was it they cut the Corvette, to cut the guy's finger off?
Well, I don't know.
So
Well, I hadn't heard that, but that's crazy.
To get into
now I have to look that up.
Is it true, Steve? Corvette cutting off finger or something, stealing? It was something I heard. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wish we brought up Mr. Robot sooner, because there's so much to talk about.
Oh my God.
You know, all the blackmail. Like, I love the way that they did the blackmail in the beginning of the.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay.
You know, they use basically they put people in a situation where they had to murder someone to stay alive, and then but now they're blackmailable. So if someone can taint you with a blackmailable event, then they can control you, and now they can trust you, and now you can be part of their network. And I think a lot of the least ethical networks work like this. They actually expect you to perform some egregious act,
right?
And then after that you're allowed in. So I think they nailed that. They got that right. There's a lot of social engineering aspects to it like that.
Because it's like, you know...
where they just calling people and tricking them into divulging information that they shouldn't.
Right.
I think everything in that show is at least plausible.
Yes.
I have not seen anything that was not plausible. So they really got good consultants for that one.
So definitely, I agree.
I love it. I'm waiting. I'm ready for the next season.
I'm on season 1 and 2. I like watching it. I'm back, like when I'm.
Oh, that's why you don't. Okay, I did a spoiler in there, but you don't know which one it is, so I'm not going to tell you. You'll find out.
I'll find out soon enough. But I enjoy watching those type of shows, like when I'm working or studying for my CCIE, when I'm doing my labs. Mm-hmm. I just, you know, it's good background. I've seen it so many times.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But you brought up the singularity is I do see some difficult times ahead. Is what are you going to do for employment when?
Are you talking about the automation wave? Right. Yeah, we could have no singularity, still have the automation wave. I mean, it's already happening. I think that the automation wave and 3D printed everything, including guns, is part of the same wave. I think that's the reason, you know, whatever your projections are for the automation wave, extrapolate them to 3D guns.
So,
it's the same problem. It's the same exact problem.
Do you know what Talos is?
No.
Okay, so Talos it's almost as big as the CIA, no, NSA, collecting intelligence.
Here we go, Black Vans people.
This is, it's like a group.
You know what? I'm giving it to you. You're getting a Black Van, because you definitely are taking the cake with Black Van stuff.
Oh.
So go ahead, tell us.
So Talos is, so Cisco talks about it all the time, and so like when you use like Firepower or some of the Cisco products, it connects to Talos, and they get information of billions of emails a day, and what I mean, like, so virus samples and signatures get uploaded, millions of them, and it's always put into like the cloud, and so when you and it's just a basic suction cup of virus information and signatures and patterns and predictive, and talking about it does predictive. So it does like is this code bad? And it's really amazing how it works with the Cisco product.
Are they? So what kind of? I assume they're doing some kind of signature creation.
Right.
So what kind of signatures are they aiming to create with this?
No, because it gets so many different endpoints, information from so many different endpoints.
It's just logging. They're not doing anything else with it.
It captures it. So when a bad email comes in, they'll say, "Oh, we saw this from, we saw this virus thing from, I don't know, from Brazil or whatever, 20 minutes ago."
Right.
And you could be in New York. Well, it's just saw this.
So the object isn't blocking; it's just tracking.
Well, no, it tracks a whole bunch of huge data, and it knows what's good and bad.
Okay, and what does it do? What do they do with that? Is that part of that?
The security system, yeah, like
Oh, it is a signature. It is an automated signature creation system.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's cool, man.
It is.
I had no idea.
It's look it up, Talos. Did they give you like a little quick blurb about Talos? Say put
I
Talos
think
Cisco.
that's probably going to be the last thing.
He talks about the Greek fictional character.
Okay.
They always do that, right?
That's House Intelligence.
Yes, the Talos Intelligence. That's it.
Hold on.
Talos Security Intelligence and Research Group. Talos Security Intelligence is made up of leading threat research supported by sophisticated systems to create threat intelligence for Cisco products that detect, analyze, and protects against both known and emerging threats.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you talk about singularities,
Right.
things like that.
So that's just a pile of machine learning. That's not a singularity yet, but
it's
you could
machine-
see how a singularity would have an advantage in that scenario. Right. So they have an incentive to not just write a pile of machine learning bots, but actually work on the singularity as
Right.
well.
And you think about it, in 10 years, that
I
will
mean,
maybe.
that's not their goal, is to create an all-knowing computer system that will destroy humanity.
No.
But when it's smarter than everyone, it might have had it with our shit.
So
That's the problem with it making really smart AI.
And then you start adding quantum computing to that.
Right.
What do you get? God knows only.
Yeah, I don't even know what. Yeah. I mean, especially if it destroys encryption. World War IV will really be with sticks and stones, but not for the reasons that Einstein imagined. Well, he said he didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This was a lot of fun, and you went all over the place, and it was awesome. And I
had a
hope
great
I have
time.
more guests to do that.
Hopefully, maybe I'll come back one day.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff we didn't even touch.
Come back. Oh my God.
I mean, there's stuff on this sheet, there's stuff on these sheets. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.